Al Airlines, and former Deputy Director of Security for the Israeli Foreign Ministry, Isaac Yefet, will be here. Then the Malzberg panel, radio host and co-author of The Big Black Lie, Kevin Jackson, and Democratic strategist and writer Bridget Todd. Then Mary Manilin, Republican political consultant and strategist. She will be here to talk about, well, Putin, Gaza, Obama, and the whole caboodle, shall we say. Then you got Gimme Five and oh so much more, all coming up in the first hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, before we get to Isaac Yefet, how's this scenario? 4 or 5 men carrying backpacks, traveling in groups of 2, climb up to the top of the Brooklyn Bridge in the middle of the night. And instead of planting bombs and lacing the whole structure with explosives, they switch flags. They switch the American flags for white flags. And now the NYPD has pulled dozens of officers off of other assignments in order to find these men who they saw on video after the fact. Now, people have poo-pooed this. People have made light of this. People have said, it's nothing. It's probably a prank. I don't care if it's a prank. I don't care what it is. This has to be an eye-opener for security, for crying out loud. Backpacks, men, middle of the night, climbing the Brooklyn Bridge, and nobody saw them? How is it possible in our post-9/11 world? How on earth is it possible? Okay, Isaac Yefet joins us, but first I want you to watch Mayor Bloomberg speaking from Israel last night.
Everybody seems comfortable. Everybody thinks they're well protected by an army and an air force that knows how to fight and is out there trying to protect them. And when they walk down the streets, when they send their kids to school, when they go to the parks, when they get to a concert, they feel safe. If you don't feel safe here, I don't know where you'd feel safe. And I think the State Department is just overreacting in typical bureaucratic fashion.
All right, folks, Mayor Bloomberg in Israel, and I don't often agree with him, but I agree 100% with what he did. And, of course, as we told you a moment ago, the FAA rescinding its order, reversing itself, and flights are now allowed to fly into Israel from the United States. And joining us now, as promised, is the former Director of Security for El Al Airlines and also former Deputy Director of Security for the Israeli Foreign Ministry. And we say hello to Isaac Yefet. Hi, Isaac. How are you, sir?
Hi. Thank you. How are you?
Good. Pleasure to have you. So do you believe that the FAA did the right thing in reversing their decision?
100% yes. Because from the beginning, I said that it was a mistake to take a decision not to allow the American airlines to fly to Israel. The results of this, all the European airlines immediately, they decided to stop flying to Israel. 2 weeks, there is a war between Israel and the Hamas terrorist organizations. And every day, they were shooting between 100 and 150 rockets toward Israel. What happened? Nothing. Hundreds of thousands of passengers were flying during these 2 weeks, landing in Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv, taking off. No one was hurt. Why suddenly?
Well, let me ask you, do you think it was political? Do you think it was our administration here doing it on purpose for some reason?
My answer to this, I hope that it's not political, because I don't want to discuss politics. As a former head of security for El Al, I used to deal with security to save life of passengers and innocent people. I spent most of my life in Israeli Secret Service in the field of anti-terrorism, so I know what I'm talking about. The sky in Israel was, from day one, the war. safe and secure. So many flights came to Israel and left Israel with passengers. No one was hurt. Suddenly, because of one rocket blown up a mile from the airport, this decision, is it logic to do it? Don't you know that rockets cannot hit aircrafts? Don't you know that Israel will not commit suicide by continue flying together with another 2 Israeli airlines to take off and to land day and night? Because we knew that nothing happens, because we know that the sky is secure, safe, we know the passengers are safe and secure, and thank God nothing happens.
So I won't ask you if it's politics. I'll just ask you to maybe answer your question. So all of a sudden, what happened that made the FAA do that, do you think?
I don't want to try to guess, but I want to say that I'm very happy that the FAA decided soon and fast to change their mind and to allow U.S. air carriers to fly to Israel. And as a result, all the European airlines made a statement today that they also will continue to fly to Israel and from.
We have reports, sir, and in your previous capacities, that there's fears that Hezbollah and other groups, I believe some other groups have joined with Hamas from the Gaza Strip to participate in this war with Israel. Do you fear that another front might open up while this is still continuing?
No, because when it comes to the airport.
Continuing?
No, because when it comes to the airport, we are so safe and secure there.
No, I'm talking about just in general with the battle. Do you believe that Hezbollah might get involved from Lebanon?
From Hezbollah, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. What's his name? The leader of Hezbollah made very statement after the last war. He said, and I quote, "If I knew that this will be the results of the war ahead against Israel, I would never ever open this war." And he remembers this. Now, statement by the leader of the Arabs, we all know, especially the leaders of terrorist organizations like Hezbollah or Hamas, etc., etc.
They're not worth much, right?
Yeah, it doesn't impress us, but we know exactly what is behind it, and they know it's better for them not to start.
Okay, now let me talk about Iran. Certainly, the United States is in talks, as are other countries, with Iran. The deadline for those talks were just extended. Sanctions were taken off, and yet you have the Iran supreme leader today saying the only solution for the crisis is Israel's destruction. These are remarks he's made before, again and again, but making them again today. In light of this kind of statement, do you understand how the United States could still pursue talks with this country?
Number one, sorry.
That's okay.
This is not the first time that Iran, and especially the former president of Iran, made statement after statement that the only solution for the Israeli country and the Jewish country, people is to destroy the state of Israel. So talks doesn't cost too much. We are not weak. We have enough wars against few Arab countries at the same time that they fought against Israel, and we all know the results. Never ever we lost any war. We don't want war. We are not looking for war, but if they start, we will respond. Look now, the Hamas. We told them, don't send rockets toward Israel because we will respond you. They thought that they can hit us. So look at the results. Look how many hundreds of terrorists were killed. Close to 600 terrorists were killed until now. More than 4,000 were injured. More than 4,000 were injured. And where is the end? Now with the ceasefire, they are coming with conditions that, I don't know, only God can tell us from where they brought this condition.
Well, now they want a 5-day ceasefire, apparently. They're calling it humanitarian. But Israel believes, as I believe I heard them say, and I certainly believe, a 5-day ceasefire, it gives them a chance to reorganize and regroup and get their act together, right?
You give the answer. Because a few times the United Nations, the General Secretary of the United Nations came and he asked for ceasefire for a few hours, for 48
and they
hours.
said no, right.
And they said no.
Yeah.
They have conditions. Now, ceasefire for humanitarian reason. And the answer was no. If you don't want, so come and war. We're open to continue the war. We found 36 of tunnels that they built from Gaza toward Israel territory, and nobody knew about this. And suddenly, we found that this is very dangerous for the Israelis that live in the border of Gaza. They could go over there, no one will see them, and then it will be massacre.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask, we only have a couple of minutes left, and I do want to ask you, this tactic of using the human shields and then claiming Israel's committing a massacre, that's what they've always done. Why does the world keep accepting that scenario that put forth by the Palestinians?
I wish I would be able to answer and to understand the world why they are looking to believe them. There are so many evidence that inside the houses of the families that live in these houses, the Hamas terrorists are shooting from there. And the Israeli army has to answer them. And you find out that the first you killed innocent people because they became the human shield for the terrorists. They care about themselves, but not about the miserable people that have no choice, and they have to follow the instructions of the Hamas.
Yeah. All right, Isaac, thank you so much for your expertise. We appreciate it. Great to talk to you, sir, and I hope you'll come back soon.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll do it with pleasure. Thank you.
All right, folks. We're going to talk about all this and more with the Malzberg panel, which is up next. Coming up right here on Newsmax Television, The Steve Malzberg Show.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Mary had LifeLock's bank account alerts, she may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, guarding your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose. When you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
Now on Newsmax TV, is Obama secretly trying to stop Hillary's presidential plans? Best-selling author Ed Klein has the latest details on Midpoint with Ed Berliner. Go now to Newsmax TV. entertainment, sports, news, and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, we're back. It's Malzberg panel time, and joining us on the panel, radio host and author of The Big Black Lie, Kevin Jackson, and Democratic strategist and writer Bridget Todd. Welcome to both of you. Today, the House Rules Committee voted along party lines to approve of the Boehner lawsuit, if you will, against Barack Obama. They have one more vote to take, and then eventually, before they go to recess, it will be brought to the floor of the House where it will pass. Let me ask you, Bridget, your reaction to the results today. No surprise, but going forward, this suit is moving along.
You know, I think it'll be really interesting to see how far this progresses. And personally, I think at a time like this, we should be focusing on, you know, there certainly is a lot to be focused on for the American people. I wonder if this is the best, you know, way to spend our resources and our time. But I'm just really interested to see sort of how this thing progresses.
Well, you know, Kevin, the House has passed over 300 bills that have not been taken up by the Senate. A lot of them related to employment and the economy. So I guess they've done their job. Harry Reid won't do his. And now they're going to go after the president for abusing his.
Well, I think it's going to, I agree with Bridget that I'd like to see what happens, but I think the Senate won't let this go anywhere. But the fact of the matter is, I'm glad the Republicans are showing some resolve in curtailing a president who's completely out of control. I think they should be drug testing this guy.
I can't disagree with that more. You know, and it just doesn't kind of jibe with the facts of the situation. The fact of the matter is, this idea of Obama as this, you know, president with executive power run amok is just not accurate. If you look at the facts and look at the number, the facts remain that he's actually used less executive orders than far less than any other modern president. This idea that he's, you know, executive power run amok is just
I don't know
not
what facts
accurate.
I don't know what facts you're talking about. This he's reckless. And somebody's got to stop him. And I think that this is long overdue. I'll put it to you this way. If Barack Obama were a Republican president, and particularly a white president, there's no question in my mind this would have been done 2, 3, maybe even 4 years ago.
Kevin, let me ask you, how many executive orders has Barack Obama done in his presidency?
All right, but here's the thing, Bridget. Let me interject. It's not about a scorecard on executive orders. It's not about that at all. What it's about is selective enforcement of laws and changing laws that have been passed. His own Affordable Care Act, he's changed many, many times, but because he felt like changing it. You can't change existing law with the stroke of a pen. He's not a dictator or a king, and he's told ICE to stand down on certain aspects of immigration law. He relaxed the work provision of welfare reform law that was passed under Clinton. You can't change standing law without Congress, and that's what he's done that's different than other presidents. And that's why Jonathan Turley says he's what the founders feared most, even though he's voted for Obama.
Well, I just think it's interesting that if you talk to many prominent Republicans, a lot of them agree that this impeachment nonsense is just that, nonsense.
Nobody said impeachment. No, but wait. Nobody said impeachment. You just said it. This is a lawsuit.
I feel that is where the conversation is heading, and I just want to
the conversation's already been discussed about impeachment. What they're talking about is curtailing a president, and Steve just gave example after example, and there are many others where Barack Obama says, I don't care what's going on in that branch of government. I'm going to supersede them. He's said to the Republicans, so sue me. So they're doing it. Just like he made the...
I think it's very interesting that when we talked about immigration reform a couple of weeks ago, the conversation was, why is Obama waiting for Congress to act? Then he does this, and everyone says, oh, it's power run amok. So which is it? Do you want him to act, or do you want him not to act?
No. You know what I'd like to see Obama do on immigration reform is I'd like to see him enforce the existing immigration laws. There's no immigration reform needed. What we need is enforcement of our laws. The same way we just need enforcement of our gun laws.
Barack Obama, to be honest with you, I honestly,
wait, one at a time. One at a time. Finish up with the gun law, Kevin.
I just want to finish with this. Barack Obama
Bridget respond.
takes his own personal agenda, and he decides what's right and what's wrong for America: guns, immigration, voter ID, you name it, and he decides unilaterally that he's going to make the laws. And you know what he does? He essentially thwarts the people who have their representatives, and he doesn't care about that branch of government. The executive branch trumps any branch of government as far as he's concerned.
You know, I gotta say, as a progressive, I wish that were true. I wish we had this president who was hammering down on his agenda and getting things passed tooth and nail, you know, just on his own. If that were true, I'd be, you know, in the streets celebrating. But the fact is, that's not the case. I wish that were true. I wish that we had this sweeping regulation of gun reform and immigration reform and healthcare reform. But the fact of the matter is, we don't have it. I wish we had it, but we don't.
By the way, the latest Fox poll out today shows 58 to 37% voters think that President Obama exceeded his authority under the Constitution when he unilaterally changed the health care law by executive order. So, you know, it seems that the people, they don't want impeachment, but they favor the lawsuit and believe that he did abuse his authority. Let me ask you guys this. I'm curious, and I'll start with you, Bridget. Democratic Senator from Montana, John Walsh, he wrote a thesis. It was written to earn his master's degree from the U.S. Army War College, and it has unattributed passages contained, taken word for word from previously published papers. And basically, he admits this from the way I read it, and he cites PTSD as his apparent reason for plagiarism. I've never heard that before in my life.
I mean, listen, I'm not a mental health professional. I don't know if this is a credible explanation for what happened. I will say that as someone who has been in the academic circle, worked in academia, there's no excuse for plagiarism. And if he has a legitimate medical reason that explains this, fine. But I gotta say, I've been in graduate school. I've taught at the university level for a while. If a student gave me that excuse, I would have a lot of follow-up questions.
All right, so I guess I don't know, Kevin. Is she saying that he should be thrown out of the Senate?
No, this is what I love about progressives, aka liberals, whatever they call themselves. Look, he lied, and same as Elizabeth Warren, who got ahead because she claims she's an Indian. Joe Biden plagiarized half of his stuff. That's what liberals do. Just call it what it is. He's a cheater, and you know what? He should be.
All right, guys, stay where you are. Stay where you are. Bridget Todd and Kevin Jackson will come back with part 2 because part 1 was so brilliantly executed. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We're coming back with more of the Malzberg panel. Easy for me to say, but first, stay tuned for your Newsmax Now update coming up.
As women, we always talk about how we should look or what's the best way to lose weight. But for me, it finally became all about how I feel. No tricks, just me. I looked in the mirror and I saw what I didn't want to see, the truth. I was 50 pounds overweight. It was a rough day. That's when I decided I had to lose weight. So I chose the only simple option for me, Nutrisystem.
Now you can lose weight even faster with the Fast 5 kit from Nutrisystem. Lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Order your 28-day My Way plan and we'll rush you the Fast 5 kit free. You'll get a week of fantastic energizing shakes, 1 week of delicious Craving Crusher shakes, and a free week of 21 delicious meals, and it's all free.
So why do I keep telling you about Nutrisystem? Because it works, and I know it'll work for you.
Call 877-271-DIET and lose your first 5 pounds free.
Eligible for Medicare, that's a good thing. But it doesn't cover everything. Only about 80% of your Part B medical expenses. The rest is up to you. So consider an AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan, insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company. Like all standardized Medicare supplement insurance plans, they pick up some of what Medicare doesn't pay and could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. Call today to request a free decision guide to help you better understand what Medicare is all about and which AARP Medicare supplement plan works best for you. With these types of plans, you'll be able to visit any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare patients. Plus, there are no networks and virtually no referrals needed. There's a range of plans to choose from, too, and they all travel with you, anywhere in the country. Join the millions who have already enrolled in the only Medicare supplement insurance plans endorsed by AARP, an organization serving the needs of people 50 and over for generations, and provided by United Healthcare Insurance Company, which has over 30 years of experience behind it. Call today. Remember, Medicare supplement insurance helps cover some of what Medicare doesn't pay. Expenses that could really add up. These kinds of plans could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. You'll be able to choose any doctor who accepts Medicare patients, and there are virtually no referrals needed. So don't wait. With all the good years ahead, look for the experience and commitment. The good years ahead. Look for the experience and commitment to go the distance with you. This easy-to-understand guide will answer some of your questions and help you find the AARP Medicare supplement plan that's right for you.
More troubles in the skies today. I'm Miranda Kahn here with your latest Newsmax Now update. Another flight overseas meets a tragic end today, this time in northern Africa. It's believed all 116 people on board a passenger jet died after it crashed in Mali. The jet dropped off radar earlier today en route to Algeria. It was flying through some violent storms. And at least 15 more people lost their lives in Gaza after another round of Israeli gunfire. The country's tank shells hit a compound housing a United Nations school where victims were seeking shelter from the ground fighting on the streets outside. Israeli troops continued their incursion into the Gaza Strip to neutralize Hamas militants. I'm Miranda Kahn, and we'll have another Newsmax Now update in about 30 minutes. For now, let's head back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, we're back with the Malzberg panel. You loved it so much the first time. We bring it right back with Kevin Jackson and Bridget Todd. And let's talk about the Middle East and Israel and Hamas. And once again, the FAA has lifted its ban on flights to Israel from the United States. Let me ask you, Bridget, why in the world would, as we had the head of Israeli, former head of El Al Security on earlier, and why, with all these weeks of rockets being fired and all the wars that have come before it and everything that's been going on, did the FAA all of a sudden decide to put a ban on, and then 2 days later, with the circumstances still very much the same, they decided to lift the ban? Was it political?
You know, I agree completely with your earlier guest. You know, I don't want to speculate on why they did this. I'm assuming they have their reasons. But I think we can all agree that what's going on there is truly a humanitarian crisis that really needs some addressing.
Well, how would you address it?
You know, again, I mean, I don't want to speculate. I don't know that it's a situation that has any kind of easy answer or easy solution. If it did, I'm sure this would be something that people would be, advocating for. But I just know that, when you've got a situation where folks are losing their lives and people are afraid, and there's, children are dying, I think something really needs to be done. And what that is, I think kind of remains to be seen.
Well, I know what it is, Kevin. It's eradicate Hamas. They're the ones committing war crimes. They're the ones responsible for the death and injury of their own children and their own civilians. They do it on purpose, and that's who they are.
Absolutely. And look, it's funny that the old sort of the safety net for liberalism is if women and children and people are dying everywhere. People die in Chicago every single weekend. You don't have to go to Hamas or Israel for it, and liberals have an answer for it. Look, it's very simple. Leave the Israeli people alone. They don't want to fight. They don't want to go over and cause war. But the Hamas people, the folks that are involved with terrorism, including Hamas, are not going to do that. And it doesn't matter what Israel does, they're going to be attacked by Hamas. Look at the tunnels that are being dug. Just look at everything that's going on right now and tell me that these people are really interested in peace in the Middle East.
I mean, I think that you've got, in terms of peace talks, there's talk of ceasefire, there's talk of this 5-day ceasefire. I think that, it's good to be optimistic and think, maybe something can really come of this. And I think the idea that there's no talk of, that they're just rejecting, ceasefire is just not accurate.
Well, Israel's given.
Hamas has rejected several ceasefires already, and when they had their last humanitarian ceasefire for 5 hours, Hamas violated that one too. I mean, that's not up for debate. That's fact. And
Correct.
Israel would be foolish, and Israel would be out of their minds to have a 5-day ceasefire to allow Hamas to regroup and recoup from the battle that's being waged. What's Israel going to sit around on the tops of their tanks and wait for them to aim their rockets at them? I mean, that's nuts.
One of the things they want is for them to allow them to ship products and people in without being checked. And they say, if you do that, then, you know, we'll give a little bit here. And Israel's saying, no, the reason we're having to implement these policies is because you guys come over here and you wreak havoc on our community. Look, this is one of these silly discussions. Israel is not starting these wars, and the world community in many cases wants to jump on them after the fact. It's the second guy that throws the punch is the one that gets blamed. But the fact is Israel's right on this, and they've been right all along.
Final word on this, Bridget?
You know, as I
Bridget,
said before,
final word?
As I said before, you know, I think that I'm not one to speculate on sort of the reasons why the FAA acted the way they did. I think it's truly a humanitarian crisis, and I truly just hope we can come to some sort of solution very soon.
Okay. All right, guys, appreciate both of you. Kevin Jackson and Bridget Todd, thank you for being with us. We'll do it again real soon. Very interesting conversation, ladies and gentlemen, and we have a lot more ahead on the Middle East and a lot more. So keep it tuned right where you are. And we'll be back with Republican political consultant Mary Madeline and more of the show. But first, this hour's American Moment takes a look at the opening of the Panama Canal.
It took 34 years to build, but on August 15th, 1914, the Panama Canal was officially opened for business and was quickly crowned one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. The 51-mile-long and 10-mile-wide canal was originally begun by the French, but abandoned after 9 years and the loss of over 20,000 of their workers from disease-infected jungles. President Theodore Roosevelt believed the completion of the canal was essential to American security and prosperity, so he negotiated with the French to purchase the canal's properties and dredging equipment. But when negotiations with Colombia over a canal treaty broke down, Roosevelt backed a local bloodless revolution that lasted only a few hours. And on November 3rd, 1903, the nation of Panama was born. With the opening of the Panama Canal, the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans were joined, reducing a ship's journey from New York to San Francisco by 9,000 miles. Roosevelt's vision made the canal a reality, and the feat helped make America a world power. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
Oh no! You're always dropping things into the black hole between the seat and console. They fall under the seat and out of reach on the floor. Not anymore. Introducing Catch Caddy, the revolutionary car seat caddy that sits between the seat and console to catch things before they fall into the black hole. Cell phones, jewelry, cash, coins, French fries, and more. Catch Caddy grabs them all before they fall to the floor. Catch Caddy is ultra flexible with a one-size-fits-all design that slides right in to fit securely beside any seat. And its sleek black design makes it very discreet. Simply slide out the sleeve and retrieve. It's that easy. Catch Caddy is super pliable to fit the contour of any seat, and it slides with the seat when adjusting for any driver. It's completely washable, so it cleans with just a rinse. And it's designed with storage in mind. Store your phones, chargers, road maps, electronics, and so much more to keep what you need within your reach and off the floor.
I love my Catch Caddy. When I accidentally drop fries or any kind of food in between the seat and the console, it's so easy to pull it out, take it to the trash can, and I absolutely love it.
Through the years, it's gotten a lot harder for me to crawl around in the car looking for something that's fallen under the seat. But with Catch Caddy, I don't have to. Everything is at my fingertips. I love it.
Stop losing stuff in that black hole between the seat and console and get not just one, but 2 Catch Caddies for just $10. But wait, if you call now, we'll double the offer and send you a second set of Catch Caddies for a second car or to give as a gift, and the second set is yours free. Just pay separate processing and handling. You get 1, 2, 3, 4 Catch Caddies in all. A $40 value, all for just $10. Catch, store, and so much more with Catch Caddy. Here's how to order.
To order Catch Caddy for $10 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-939-0028. That's 1-800-939-0028 or order online at CatchCaddy.com. Call or click now.
Hi, I'm Jean, and this is my one and only Henry. We just love scouring flea markets for special treasures. But with my type 2 diabetes, we now spend all the time at the pharmacy. With Medcare, I don't have to. They deliver everything I need right to my door with free shipping. Plus, Medcare takes private policies, Medicaid, even my Medicare. Sleep apnea machines, nebulizers. Medcare has all the finest medical supplies. The best part, Medcare saves us money. Medcare allows us the time to do the things we love. Medcare, we deliver a better life.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
You know, it's worth it just for the guitar at the end, I'll tell you. Joining us now is the one and only Mary Manilin, Republican political consultant, former campaign director for the George W. Bush and Dick Cheney campaign, and chief counselor to Vice President Dick Cheney. Hello, Mary.
Steve, I don't want to hear that song anymore because it's only the guitar riff at the end, and it's probably not. It's only the guitar riff at the end, and it's probably not even them playing. I know you love it, but can we find another Mary?
Okay, we could do that. Along Comes Mary, or there's got to be a million Mary songs, right?
For it was Mary.
Yeah. All right. You just gave my production team their hair just stood up, but okay, that's fine. Next time we'll have another one, I promise.
I'm not saying I haven't liked it in the.
We'll have another one, I promise.
I'm not saying I haven't liked it in the past. I'm just saying we can move on.
Okay, it just struck
me as not musical. I know we differ on the Monkees, but.
All right, good enough. Done. It's done.
Thank you.
You ask, it's done. No more
Thank
Monkees.
you.
Sorry, Davey. Well, Davey's left us, but sorry, Mickey and Peter and Mike. Mary says no more. All right. You know what? I wish we could say no more to Vladimir Putin. How do you like that segue? Pretty good?
Well, that's why they pay you the big bucks, huh?
So, you know, he's campaigning. He's in Seattle. You know what I got a kick out of in Seattle? He told, according to Politico, he told the folks he was at a fundraiser, I don't watch much TV news because most of the stuff I already know. And then Jon Stewart played a whole bunch of, I found out about this on TV. I found out about this watching on TV. I found out along with everybody else watching on TV. So that was kind of ironic. But is he still AWOL in your view?
Well, yes, of course he is, and that's sort of emblematic. What you've just described is emblematic of the presidency of the whole administration. I'm not responsible. I didn't even know about it. I was just talking to a friend of mine, formerly in the intelligence community. Once you're in intelligence, he said we knew ISIS, we know Boko Haram, we know all of this stuff. We know it less well than we did because of the desecration to our intelligence community and policies, because of the Obama policies. But if he doesn't know it, then that speaks to his competence or his concern or his commitment. But it certainly says something to not know the kinds of things you're required to know, you're obligated to know. And I don't know any other president, including Jimmy Carter, who didn't know these kind of things. I guess what Democrats are saying, that the joke in that community is the one good thing about Obama is that he makes Carter look good.
You know, one thing after the other. Let's talk about Gaza. You know what gets me is this State Department. I mean, we saw Kerry on the open mic with Chris Wallace. He didn't know he was on an open mic mocking Israel's pinpoint attacks. And now he's demanding a ceasefire. Obama says, they all say that Israel has a right to defend herself, but that's enough. You've done enough damage. Stop now. Where do they get that from?
Can I just say this about Israel? If it weren't for the Israelis, the Syrians would be nuked up today. This would be a whole different world. The Israelis took out the Syrians. The Israelis are holding, they're the only last bastion of stability, freedom, and hope for that entire region, which is otherwise imploding, while our skies are exploding, while our border is evaporating. You know, it's like the faith community in the United States. You don't have to be a believer to enjoy the benefits of those that do and maintain that value system and those morals. And in this case, the respect and dignity of each individual human being and freedom. That's what the Israelis do. The anti-Semitism, I'm kind of loath to call it that, but I don't know what else to call it, that is having our government mimic the attitude of the UN is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and it's shudderingly frightening. It really is.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, and it's blatantly obvious as well. You know, even Bill Richardson, who was on, who we're going to talk to a little while, has said that he wishes that the State Department and the human rights portion of it would spend more time on focusing on the persecution and slaughter of Christians than on criticizing Israel.
Persecution, rabid persecution of Christians. That John Allen has a new book out, and it kind of doesn't want to raise the ire of liberals, but it's tortured, displaced, destroyed the Christians all over the world, but particularly in the places where we should be standing up for them. Well, we should be standing up for them everywhere, but we're worried about people with whom we can't negotiate. Why does Israel, let's go back to Israel has a right to defend itself. How about Israel has the right to exist, and they shouldn't have to be defending themselves to preserve their very ability to exist? The whole premise is crazy, right, to defend themselves. They shouldn't have to be in a constant defensive crouch.
No, right, absolutely. But this is what it is, and if Obama and Kerry get their way, they'll make Israel sign on to a ceasefire, and then you know what? Make Israel sign on to a ceasefire, and then you know what really gets me is they keep talking about. Then we could address what Hamas has to say if there's a ceasefire. We're going to negotiate. I mean, Mary, I don't even know what country we're living in anymore. I really don't.
I know, but don't worry, Steve. Hope is on the way.
All right, well, let's talk about hope on the way.
We're going to have a good midterm. We have the states are Scott Walker and Mike Pence. There's a bunch of governors that are doing great things in the states. The cities are doing fine. Obama and them aren't going to be around for long, and they're going to have to suffer a sound defeat in the midterms, philosophically, substantively, and electorally. But in this instance, Bibi Netanyahu and the Israelis are tough, tough, tough. It doesn't matter what Kerry and Obama want. Nobody fears, starting with Putin, nobody in the world fears this country anymore. Weakness invites provocation, as my former boss used to say all the time. That's why you see Putin behaving the way he is, but you won't see Bibi Netanyahu behaving that way.
I hope you're right, because, I think taking action against Israel is probably the only country that Obama would take action against and punish it. What about the FAA banning the flights? They've reinstated them. There was a lot of accusations from Israel and from others like me that was purely political in nature, kind of a punishment, if you will, from the Obama administration. Do you buy into that at all?
I'm shocked. Speaking of the Middle East, the Obama administration behaving politically against Israel in the walk-up to an election where they had to turn out their liberal base, which doesn't, why Jewish people continue to vote for Democrats, I have no idea. But
I wish I could tell you.
I'm shocked that they're playing politics.
Yeah, I really wish I could tell you. All right, let's move on to the revelation yesterday that the GAO had fraudulently purchased Obamacare and gotten subsidies on fraudulent information as well. Almost every time they tried. This is something nobody's talking about because there's so many other things going on, but this is something that should not be forgotten and not be overlooked. It's just a disaster on every single level.
We're kind of talking every week now, every single show, and we're not apocalyptic types. Every single show there's something more egregious some offense more egregious than the last.
Yeah, you're right.
So the appeals courts circuit splitting on the subsidies, which are nothing more than wealth redistribution anyways. None of this would work without the subsidies, and the subsidies are robbing Peter to pay Paul. The whole thing is a house of cards, and that it's being done as corruptly as that's what I said last time about Lois Lerner. It's bigger than Lois Lerner. It's systemic, and now the IGs are hey, not I don't know. I can't. They're like the three monkeys. I don't see nothing. I see no evil. Hear no evil. Speak no evil.
You know, you brought it back to monkeys. You know that.
Oh, damn me! What the hell? You win. Okay, play whatever you want.
No. We're gonna change it next time. I promise you. Mary, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much for making time. We'll speak to you soon.
Go with God, my friend. Peace
Take care.
Be with you.
Take care, Mary Matlin, ladies and gentlemen. And she's right. Whenever we talk, every time we talk, there's something new, another scandal, another tragic event, another national or international, outrage or emergency. I just never recall any. And I remember sitting there on WOR radio in 08, in 09, in 010, and saying, it's one thing after another. You can't keep up with it. But that was nothing compared to what's going on now. Now look at the magnitude of the scandals. Look at the magnitude of the IRS. Look at the magnitude of Benghazi. Look at the magnitude of the Putin situation. Now the reports today that there are troops amassing on the Ukrainian border 5 miles from the border. What's Obama going to do about that? Nothing. Just yell at Israel. That's all he can do, and that's all he wants to do. All right, we're coming back, folks, with Gimme 5 on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. Obamacare isn't working for all Americans. Let's stop, take a deep breath, and recognize it's seriously flawed. Let's put patients first by focusing on free market solutions Americans can be proud of. America is blessed with a creative spirit that has conquered diseases, ended epidemics, and given millions of people the opportunity to live longer, healthier lives. We can once again have the greatest healthcare system on earth if Washington gets out of the way. If you want to hold Washington accountable and truly save American healthcare, join me and sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our healthcare. Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website and sign the petition today.
Let's work together and save American healthcare, sign the petition, and unleash the great American spirit again.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
This is a national healthcare alert from the Health Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You could qualify for a pain-relieving knee brace at little or no cost to you. Get free delivery, and all the paperwork is handled by our accredited suppliers at no charge to you. If you're on Medicare and have knee pain, don't wait. You may qualify to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost. Call the Health Hotline right now for details toll-free at 877-530-9847. Friendly agents are standing by 24/7 to help you. We also have other pain-relieving braces available for shoulder, ankle. Ankle, and your back. You may be eligible to receive these items. Details toll-free at 877-530-9847. Please remember this number, 877-530-9847. Our friendly representatives are standing by now to take your call. Please call us right now at 877-530-9847.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft account alerts. She may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. Your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose. When you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
Mr. Mayor, what do you say when Hamas boasts that this is a great victory for them, the decision by the FAA to stop U.S. carriers from flying in and out of Israel?
If somebody scares you and it goes boo and you get scared, then it's your own problem. We're not scared. We think it's a non-issue. If we thought it's an issue, we would probably guide all, including and maybe first of all, El Al, to maybe do something else than the normal. But right now, residents of Israel, Americans, Europeans fly all airlines. They're all the same for us. And the reality is that if Hamas goes boo and you get scared, you're helping Hamas get its goals.
All right, folks, welcome to Gimme 5. The mayor of Jerusalem there with Mayor Bloomberg. This was before the FAA lifted their ban on flights to Israel earlier today. But you got to see more of this. Watch.
Everybody seems comfortable. Everybody thinks they're well protected by an army and an air force that knows how to fight and is out there trying to protect them. And when they walk down the streets, when they send their kids to school, when they go to the parks, when they get to a concert, they feel safe. If you don't feel safe here, I don't know where you'd feel safe. And I think the State Department is just overreacting in typical bureaucratic fashion.
All right, so Wolf wants to know if this was political in nature. Uh-oh.
Political reasons for that?
Why would you think that?
Do you think it? I'm asking you.
That's ridiculous. Why would you think that? It's an outrage for you to accuse one of our agencies.
I'm just asking.
By asking the question, you're implying that our government does things for political reasons, and maybe every once in a while they do, but it's your job to prove it. Just the allegation against our government, I personally take as an offense.
No, I'm just asking you if you thought that there was some political motive behind the travel advisory or the FAA
Number one, I wouldn't know.
Because a lot of people in Israel do, you know.
I don't know, you don't know, and the other people don't know. But just the tone of the question of trying to create dissension, it's insulting to America.
What do you
I got to tell you, first I thought he was being tongue-in-cheek and facetious and saying, oh, Wolf, what are you implying? That our State Department would be political? But I guess he was really serious. I admire him for going, but he's still the same arrogant guy who thinks he's entitled to everything that he's always been, and more.
You walk the streets of the city of Jerusalem, speak to people. We just met a group of American teachers that came here for a week, and we asked them, how safe do you feel? They feel safer than they do at home. At least as good, if not as safer. And so you walk the streets, you go to the restaurants, you go to all around the country practically, and people are very cautious, but running their life as usual. And we don't get scared from terrorists. As a matter of fact, we'll haunt them and hit them.
There you go. Now, you want to see Bloomberg go after Wolf Blitzer again for another question? It wasn't Wolf's day. Watch.
You know, so much of Israel's economy is based on tourism. It's a huge export industry.
It absolutely is.
But, you know, the tourists are not coming right now. They're worried about what's going on.
Well, why do you think that?
Because there's a war with Hamas going on.
All I know is if the airplanes can't fly, the tourists can't come. But you haven't...
Even before that, but now especially.
I've never seen statistics that say tourism slowed down. Now you're going to see an outflow of people from around the world who want to come here to demonstrate that they value their freedoms, and if you take away the freedoms of the people here, you will be taking away their freedoms no matter what country they come from.
All right, now Bloomberg relates this, and that the demise of Israel is very premature to predict economically, and he relates it to 9/11 in downtown Manhattan, where the World Trade Center was. Watch.
And all of those people, the talking heads who kept saying it was the end of the world for New York, they couldn't have been more wrong, because New Yorkers and Americans pulled together. And you see the same thing happening over here of Israelis and people in Jerusalem.
Mr. Mayor.
Well,
thanks very much for joining us. Mr. Mayor, thanks to you as well.
Thank you as well, Wolf. You're also...
I've been here for almost 2 weeks.
How secure do you feel?
I feel very secure, but...
you want to make sure that's on television?
It's on television. People are watching you right now. Back in the United States, they'll be watching.
All right, way to go. So Wolf said he felt very secure, and Bloomberg, smart, said you want to make sure that's on television, and it was live. Believe me, if it weren't live, they would have cut it out. You know it, and I know it, and I know that you know that I know it. Anyway, so good job by Michael Bloomberg, even though I didn't like him as mayor. I'm glad he's not mayor, although compared to Bill de Blasio, he was a king. I mean, I don't mean in a bad way. I mean, he was great. All right, we're coming back, but stay tuned for your Newsmax Now update.
Are you suffering from lower back pain?
Do you wake up with nagging aches and stiffness? Now you can stop suffering and relieve your pain with Chiroback,
The drug-free in-home treatment for back pain.
All it takes is just 10 minutes of soothing treatment from the comfort of your own bed, couch, or floor.
It's like having your own personal chiropractor right in your home.
I use my hands in the office to provide passive motion to the spine of somebody who's experiencing pain. And that passive motion is replicated by the Chiroback.
It's like having this personal chiropractor do the motion that I'm used to when I go to a chiropractor.
If you can lie down to rest, you can get rid of back pain with Chiroback. It's that easy.
All it takes is 10 minutes a day.
Like magic. It opens the whole spine up and you're free again.
The secret is Chiroback's proprietary technology.
A fusion of oscillation therapy and continuous passive motion.
The unique motion gently releases the pressure between the vertebrae, allowing your spine to open up and decompress.
It's amazing how much tension it can release in so short a time. 10 minutes? That's amazing to me.
Chiroback is clinically proven to provide long-lasting relief.
In fact, Chiroback was proven 200% more effective than inversion therapy. It even proved more effective in relieving lower back pain than exercise.
Call now and try Chiroback risk-free for not 30 days, but 60 days with our triple guarantee. If Chiroback does not relieve your back pain, return it and we'll refund the purchase price, refund the shipping charge, and even pay the return postage.
So give Chiroback a try today. Chiroback, relief at last.
Visit trychiro.com right now or call 1-800-334-9816 for your risk-free trial. That's 1-800-334-9816. Call now.
I'm Miranda Kahn, here again with another Newsmax Now update. President Obama is expected to have some harsh words for American companies using legal loopholes to avoid paying more in taxes. A White House official previewed the president's statement at a community college in Los Angeles, saying that such companies are essentially renouncing their American citizenship. Vice President Joe Biden also made a strong statement today on outsourcing companies, suggesting there's a racial connection.
If we're honest with ourselves, we can't be satisfied with where we are now on either civil rights or economic opportunities for African Americans.
Biden spoke to the National Urban League conference in Cincinnati, saying domestic investment is needed to help racial minorities. The vice president adds the U.S. needs to increase its skilled workforce to improve roads, bridges, and transportation in the country. The Israeli incursion into Gaza continues to claim more lives and displace residents. The United Nations says more than 118,000 Palestinians have fled their homes. Israel's military officials say their Hamas targets are using civilians as human shields when staging their attacks. More than 730 Palestinians and at least 30 Israelis have been killed in the conflict so far. And the conflict is drawing a strong reaction from other leaders in the region. Iran's supreme leader addressed students in Tehran today, saying that the only thing that can ease the hardship of Palestinians is that they have power and can show their power. He has referred to the state of Israel as a cancerous tumor that should be removed. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that was your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, we're going to be joined by Governor Bill Richardson, former governor of New Mexico, former U.S. ambassador to the UN, and former U.S. Secretary of Energy. We'll talk about the situation in Israel and the situation with Ukraine and Putin. Then Rob Astorino, Westchester County executive here in New York, who's running for governor as the Republican candidate. He's going to discuss allegations of dirty tricks in the Cuomo camp and a New York Times report that Cuomo's office hobbled an ethics inquiry, an ethics panel appointed by Cuomo himself. Stephen Moore, chief economist for the Heritage Foundation, will be here. All that, Give Me Five, and more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, breaking news. Reuters is reporting that the wreckage of that the Air Algiers jetliner that went down today has been found. We'll give you more details as they become available, but apparently the wreckage has been found. It went missing earlier today, and it was off the radar. It went down over Mali, apparently, and we'll bring you more details as they become available. All right. You might have heard by now that some 15 to 18 Palestinians killed in a shelter, a UN shelter in the Gaza Strip. Interesting, the news coverage. I got to tell you, I've been watching CNN all day, and even as of a few minutes ago, they're reporting that nobody knows for sure if it was an Israeli rocket that hit that shelter, or a Hamas rocket or piece of munition that hit that shelter. So they've been very fair with their coverage. The UN itself doesn't know who hit that shelter. Yet, Yahoo News, CBS, USA Today, Israel did it, Israel did it, Israel did it. When on the other hand, NBC, CNN, and the New York Times, to be fair, are all saying that the shelter was hit, and there are still questions out there as to who did it. But how quick they are. Of course, Al Jazeera leading the charge there, also saying Israel did it in their headlines and stories. NBC, CNN, New York Times telling you the truth. Governor Bill Richardson will join us, but first, let's watch this and we'll talk about it.
Well, he's very crafty. He's a former KGB agent. I met him once in the Clinton administration when he first came in. I don't think he has the edge, but he's clearly been very unhelpful to the United States on Iran. He's been unhelpful on the Syria issue. He's been with President Obama. They don't have good chemistry.
All right, there you go. Bill Richardson talking about Vladimir Putin and his relationship with Barack Obama, and the former governor of the state of New Mexico, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, former secretary of the Department of Energy. I don't know, Governor, I don't know how you get all that on a business card, but I'd like to see it one day. Welcome aboard, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Nice to be with you.
Well, thank you. All right, let's start with Putin, and let's start with where you believe we are in the wake of the shooting down of the airliner. Obviously, Putin didn't say, hey, guys, cool it, because yesterday they shot down 2 more, albeit Ukrainian fighter planes, or so they claim. So, I mean, he's not intimidated by any of this, is he?
No, he's not intimidated, but I believe if the European Union put some sanctions on Russian banks, a potential arms embargo, and then finally some technology restrictions on their energy exports, I think Russia finally is going to listen. There's going to be a huge cost to Russia, public opinion-wise. They may be dragged through several international courts. But I am not one of those that say that Putin is just totally thumbing his nose. The Russian economy is not in good shape. A lot of trade has been lost. A lot of commercial relationships with several European countries could be in jeopardy. There's a potential recession. But I think if the European Union puts some sanctions on state-owned Russian banks so that preventing European investment in Russia's debt and other Russian efforts, I think is going to be significant for the first time. And I think finally a lot of European countries have had it with Putin. The issue is going to be how strong are the sanctions, how long do they last, and what will Germany do? Because Germany is the key. If Germany backs off a bit, it's not going to happen.
No, right. But you look at the relationship. I hope you're right. I hope they finally had enough. But up to this point, Governor, look at the deals that Russia has with these countries. Look at France selling all these weapons to Russia. And right on down the line, they have not been serious about this.
That is right. There's 28 countries that heavily depend on Russia for natural gas, for a lot of their commercial trade. For instance, France, you mentioned, the helicopter deal that the French are selling to Russia, that's clear. That's going to go through. So this arms embargo, if there is one by the European Union, the 28 countries, it would be prospective for the future. So again, that's what's hurt a bit in the effort to rein in. The United States has put forth sanctions, but when the Europeans don't follow up and they just put sanctions on individual people rather than on Russian companies or sector by sector, it's not going to have much bite.
All right, let's move over to John Kerry in the Middle East and the efforts for a ceasefire. A lot of tension. First of all, was the FAA smart to institute that ban on flights to Tel Aviv? And if they felt it was necessary, why is it gone 2 days later? That did nothing but inflame Israel. Many thought it was a political move.
Well, I'm a very strong supporter of Israel. I don't know the circumstances, but if there's safety, I mean, they were bombing 1 mile away from the airport, from Ben Gurion Airport. The FAA has to be concerned about safety. I'm glad that they took the ban off. I don't think it was a political move. I think the United States is very strongly committed to Israel. I mean, we have done everything we can in terms of the diplomacy to recognize Israel's right to defend itself. There's concern over some of the civilian targets, but at the same time, I think Israel has responded to ceasefire requests 3 times by the Egyptians. I think Hamas needs to step up. But again, I think American diplomacy here is crucial. We need Qatar to step up. They control a lot of Hamas's money. I don't think Turkey's going to be a player. They're too pro-Hamas. But Egypt has really stepped up as a potential mediator proposing this ceasefire. That's a very favorable development.
Yeah, but of course Egypt
reducing tension.
Right, but Egypt is no fan of Hamas anymore. The Muslim Brotherhood, when they were in place, were. But this government certainly is not. And let me ask you, there's been deafening silence, really, from the Arab League, from the Arab neighbors of Israel with regard to what's going on. In fact, most of the criticism has come from the international community, Human Rights Watch, and even the United States, which just the other day said, Israel, we, as you said, we defend their right to defend themselves, but, there's always the but. But the Arab countries, I think they'd like to see Israel take Hamas out.
Well, the head of the Arab League is an Egyptian, Nabil al-Arabi. I think they're taking their cue from Egypt and the ceasefire mediation effort. There is no question there's been a deafening silence. That always happens when a flare-up like this occurs. But what I see happening is some constructive players taking a more active role. For instance, the Secretary General of the UN, although I don't agree with a lot of the human rights reports on Israel that have been made, I think it's good that he's in there with some kind of commitment towards a ceasefire. European Union is there. France foreign minister is there. But I think the key players, Steve, are going to be what does Qatar do? They fund a lot of what Hamas is operating. Their headquarters are in Qatar. Does Egypt put forth another ceasefire proposal? I know they don't get along with Hamas, but they're very strong with the Palestinian, the moderate Palestinian with Abbas, who's playing a constructive role. So again, I see the possibility of a ceasefire, not right away, but in the next few days. And I think Secretary Kerry, he knows the region. He's invested a lot in that Israeli-Palestinian peace effort. I know it didn't work, but I think personal relationships are very important, and he has those there. So hopefully something glimmer of hope will come in the next few days.
Let me ask you about another situation, Governor, and that's the persecution of Christians in Mosul, for instance, the most recent, what they're calling a genocide, where these Christians are told to convert at the threat of death or pay a tax, or they're running. They're running for their lives. They're being slaughtered. They're being massacred. And this is going on all over the Middle East. When you look at the number of Christians that has dwindled down over the years, and in parts of Africa, why is the world basically silent on this issue, do you think?
Well, again, you know, I'd like the UN Human Rights Council to look into that instead of like making statements just about Israel in this recent escalation.
And why do you think they don't, sir? Why do you think they don't?
Well, you know, look, I was UN ambassador. I used to fight votes 180 to 3 against Israel on a lot of these human rights issues. Look, I think what needs to happen is a real balanced approach that we look at human rights violations across the board. And this is a terrible persecution. There should be some instance of threats of war crimes. But again, you know, the U.S., we can lead, but we need our European friends, and our European friends sometimes step up, other times they don't step up.
No, I agree, but shouldn't we hear from our president, a devout Christian? Shouldn't we hear from him, even if he weren't? I mean, I'm Jewish. Shouldn't we hear from him about this genocide of Christians all over the world?
Well, I think he has said something, but look, there's no question we need to step up these efforts. We have a human rights component at the State Department. I'd like to see a lot more there. There's no question about it. But you know, Steve, right now we've got the Syrian crisis, the Iraqi crisis, the Ukraine crisis,
I know,
the Middle East.
I know.
You know, we're a little, I won't say preoccupied. That doesn't mean you don't pay attention to what you referred to, but you know, the nonstop national security crises are everywhere, and that has to be a major priority.
Governor, thank you so very much. I really appreciate your time. I hope you'll come back, sir.
Thank you, Steve. All the best.
Bye-bye. Governor Bill Richardson, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. And when we come back, you're going to get much more of what you love. And that's the Steve Malzberg Show right here and only on Newsmax Television. Don't go away.
Just located. Original U.S. government Morgan silver dollars. The most sought-after coins in American history. Bulletin, 9:15 a.m. New York. National Collectors Mint releases 3,441 of the last surviving United States minted Morgan silver dollars still in existence. Each coin is 92 to 135 years old, but condition is important. And all the U.S. government Morgan silver dollars in this release are guaranteed to be in brilliant uncirculated to fine condition. 320 million Morgan silver dollars were melted by the U.S. government for both world wars. Millions more were melted by silver profiteers again and again as silver prices soared. Each contains over 3/4 of an ounce of pure silver. When silver first hit $50 an ounce, China was a poor nation. Now the Chinese are rich and using 3 times as much silver. Will this drive the price back to $50 or even higher? Silver prices are over 47% higher than they were just 4 years ago. But you can still get the same quality Morgans for our lowest TV price since then. just $29.90 each. This price can only be guaranteed for the next 7 days. Remember, this is $35 to $45 less than several national retailers charge for a similar Morgan Silver dollar. These original United States minted Morgan Silver dollars are heavy with .900 pure silver and rich in historic value. These last remaining survivors can be yours for just $29.90 each. Price guaranteed for just 7 days. Strict limit of 5 coins per caller. National Collectors Mint protects your purchase with our silver dollar money-back guarantee, but you must act soon to own an authentic Morgan Silver dollar at this price. Orders accepted on a first-come, first-served basis. Avoid disappointment and future regret. Don't miss out. Call now.
Call 1-800-704-7891. That's 1-800-704-7891. There is a strict limit of 5 coins per caller. That's 1-800-704-7891.
Now on Newsmax TV, is Obama secretly trying to stop Hillary's presidential plans? Best-selling author Ed Klein has the latest details on Midpoint with Ed Berliner. Go now to Newsmax TV.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back. New York's political scene was rocked recently and over the past few months by corruption, lots of scandals. So Governor Cuomo appointed a commission, the Moreland Commission, to look into this corruption. He was going to get to the bottom of it. Well, the New York Times is out with a story that Cuomo's own office, ergo Cuomo, in my view, was hobbling, was interfering with his own committee, his own commission looking into corruption, which to me in and of itself smacks of corruption. Joining us now to talk about this is our friend, my friend, and he's the Westchester County Executive, and he is the Republican candidate for governor from New York State, Rob Astorino. Hello, sir.
How are you, Steve?
I'm well. I know you're at the Republican Governors Association. Any scuttlebutt about this out there?
Well, here in Aspen, it was the talk of the town. There's no question about it, because I got to hand it to the New York Times. They did an explosive 3-page article, in-depth investigative report on the corruption in the Cuomo administration and the governor himself. The Moreland Commission that you talk about, that's going back to a 1907 act, which allows the governor to appoint an anti-corruption commission into the executive branch only. So what he did, the governor, is he joined with the Attorney General of New York to deputize 25 commission members, including 10 district attorneys. These people were empowered with subpoena power, compelling witnesses and testimony and documents, and they were supposed to look into corruption wherever it went, including in the legislature, which has had its problems, as well as the executive branch. They were able to look at the pay-to-play and everything else. Well, it turns out this group is supposed to be independent. And every time an investigation apparently was going towards the governor or the governor's staff or pay-to-play with donors, state contracts, every time they were starting to get close, the governor and the governor's chief of staff and his top people made sure that subpoenas were quashed, were withdrawn, where witnesses were not called in, where investigation was steered away, where the governor was protected.
Well,
so as you say, only in New York can the Anti-Corruption Commission have already been corrupt.
Well, who's going to investigate this now?
Well, the federal prosecutors, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District, Preet Bharara, has already impaneled a grand jury and has seized all the documents that this commission was working on that was abruptly abandoned. And the governor announced abruptly this past March, that he was disbanding this as a little bit of a deal with the Assembly and the Senate, basically extorting the legislators who may have been under investigation to get what he wanted in the budget. And then he immediately disbanded this. But obviously it was being disbanded because he himself, it was getting a little too close. So
So you're saying that he got the legislature to disband this commission looking into
Not the legislature. Nope. The governor unilaterally disbanded this commission.
Oh, okay, but he got then he used you believe that he used the power of this commission to get what he wanted from the legislature and certain members of it because he said, okay, I'll disband this committee even though we might be looking into you if you give me what I want in the budget.
Correct. It's sort of like the IRS scandal, where he was seizing them on legislators. But the problem was this was an independent investigation with 10 district attorneys and others who were deputized. So they were looking everywhere. And when they were getting too close to the governor's staff or the governor or the executive branch on pay-to-play and a whole bunch of other issues, that's when the governor abruptly canceled this. That's when the governor directly with his staff got involved.
So what this grand jury, could they be looking at, do you believe they're looking at the governor specifically?
There's no question, because the U.S. attorney in public statement said that he was basically appalled at what the governor did, and that you never hear that kind of statement from a U.S. attorney.
So what kind of charges, in other words, if your scenario is correct, and based on what you heard from the state attorney, from the attorney investigating this, the U.S. attorney, what are we looking at here? I mean, if he did what you believe he did, what kind of corruption charges would you?
Well, it certainly could be obstruction of justice, among many other things, pay to play, extortion. I mean, you're looking at a lot of these things. That's why I say it. You got the federal prosecutors looking at this, but concurrently, I believe very strongly that a state prosecutor or a special investigator, special prosecutor needs to be put in place so he or she can look in what.
And who would appoint that person?
Well, that's an interesting question, because the Attorney General has been compromised in this because he was part of this commission in deputizing. So ordinarily it's supposed to be the Attorney General. Now, with, I believe, the governor, both of them should be appointing a special prosecutor. If they refuse to do that, I think that speaks volumes of what's happening here.
Right. Okay, so you're not satisfied just with the federal investigation. You want a state investigation as well.
Correct, because let's just take this scenario that federal laws were not broken.
Gotcha.
That doesn't mean state laws weren't.
Gotcha. Okay, so you got very, very good point. And this all goes along with, and we got a minute and a half left, with your claim of dirty tricks by the Cuomo campaign against you. Give us an example.
They were running a commercial. First, they were running several commercials. One, they're basically calling me a racist because I'm objecting to HUD, which, of course, Cuomo used to run,
right,
coming into Westchester and trying to break up our zoning laws. But the second one is they have the audacity to try to say that I'm corrupt because, quote, I failed to clean up the corruption in Westchester. Well, here's the interesting thing. We have, but that is an admission that it was corrupt before I got there. And guess who ran things? It was the guy who was the deputy county executive, is now the chief of staff to the governor.
Yeah, it's a small world after all, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's a small world after all. And these accusations of you giving money to relatives and this and all that, and I mean, how do you react to that?
That's all the utter nonsense that I guess Freud calls it projection, but this is the governor trying to, create a smokescreen so people wouldn't pay attention to it.
Well, one more for you. Do you think we'll have a grand jury's answer on the federal charges, or will they have done their work by election time, or is this going to all drag on beyond that?
That's a great question, and I certainly think it needs to be expeditious because you have a governor and a governor's election in 3.5 months, and the people have a right to know whether the governor is a crook, whether he's committed crimes. And to have it right after an election is certainly not fair to the people of this state.
Rob Astorino, thank you very much for taking time, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Talk
thank
to you soon.
All right, Westchester County Executive Rob Astorino, folks. Very, very interesting. And we'll be back. But stay tuned now for your Newsmax Now update.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Mary had LifeLock's bank account alerts, she may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, guarding your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose. When you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
Is your property a jungle choked with overgrown saplings and brush? Take back your land with a DR Field and Brush Mower. Nothing stops the DR. Thick grass and weeds, out-of-control brush, briars, or canes, even 3-inch thick trees are no match for America's favorite brush mower. Lock it in and rip it up. Clear it out, clean it up, and rediscover the land you've lost. And with optional attachments, the self-propelled DR Field and Brush Mower converts into a finish mower, a snow thrower, a portable chipper, or a grater blade. It's a field and brush cutter and so much more.
Call 1-800-456-2023 for a free buyer's guide and DVD. You'll learn how you can try a DR at home for 6 months for as low as $58 a month and get free shipping. Hurry, this offer won't last. Call 1-800-456-2023. Online at drfieldbrush.com.
Questioning the death penalty. It's something more people in America appear to be doing now after a botched Arizona execution. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that story tops your Newsmax Now update. The executive director at the Death Penalty Information Center in Washington weighed in on that execution earlier this afternoon.
I think the state is going to have to be more forthcoming to defend what they're doing. The assumption that they're going to get it right is long past.
55-year-old Joseph Woods took nearly 2 hours to die after his lethal injection. Well, a fierce storm swept through a camping resort in Virginia today, killing 2 people. Powerful winds and rain toppled trees and campers. Virginia State Police say ambulance took 20 people to nearby hospitals. The National Weather Service issued a tornado warning in the area. It expired this morning. And that's your Newsmax Now update.
All right, folks, welcome back. And coming up shortly will be Stephen Moore, Chief Economist for the Heritage Foundation. Couple of issues. On that story about Joseph Woods, the convicted murderer, 25 years ago, convicted of murder and put to death yesterday. I heard from a witness who was in there, another witness, I should say, because it seems like the media, most of the media is getting their information from one section of these witnesses who say that he took 2 hours to die, and that's what the media coverage has been all day. But CNN, again, earlier had a witness who was in there and said he was snoring. He was snoring for most of the time. The guy said, I don't know how long it's supposed to take for him to die, but he wasn't struggling to breathe. He wasn't in pain. He was asleep and snoring. So, and he said that, you know, people, the media should listen to all of this because there's an agenda here. And the agenda here, of course, is to, and I don't know where the witnesses come from, who the witnesses are. The agenda here is for the media and you know, and the anti-death penalty crowd to show that this is cruel and inhumane punishment and it should be done away with. So let's take it all with a grain of salt until we actually find out who are these witnesses who are saying he suffered for 2 hours. He might have taken 2 hours to die, But was he in pain and suffering the whole time? I don't know. A couple of reports here that you may want to know about. One, report out today that Al-Qaeda and other states and other groups are targeting the U.S. for a 9/11 type attack, but not the bombs won't be going off. They're coming after us on a cyber level. Now, we've known about this for a long, long time, but this report indicates that it's getting closer and closer. The head man in the Justice Department who deals with such threats is saying that we're really at risk here. And we're talking about, there was an attack against the Saudi Arabia oil company where they went after their computers, took out 30,000 computers. They're targeting our power grids, among other things. If they take out our power grid, ladies and gentlemen, we're done. For a long time, I don't have faith that we would restore our power grid. My goodness, the wind blew. It wasn't even a hurricane where I live in Jersey under Sandy. 8 days I had no power. The wind blew. Now, this goes with another story that it turns out 2 years ago, a sunstorm just barely missed. It hit at the right. It was a tremendous storm. And if it had hit a week earlier or a week later, our power grids would have been out, devastated the earth. Devastated the earth is the report I just read about 2 hours ago. I was looking at the internet. So, and this isn't a rumor monger mill. I don't have the report in front of me, but this was from we're talking about scientists who said this. So you combine that, folks, you talk about being a survivalist. If you're not a little bit of a survivalist, you're really missing the boat. I really think you're missing the boat. All right, folks, we will be back with the chief economist for the Heritage Foundation, the one and only Stephen Moore, and more of the Steve Malzberg Show. But first, here is our friend Dr. Chauncey Crandall to talk about cholesterol and food.
If you have high cholesterol, you probably think that taking a statin drug is the best way to lower it. After all, why wouldn't you? Statins are among the most prescribed drugs in the world. But although they are great medications to those who truly need them, other people can lower their cholesterol just by adding certain foods to their diet. Here are the 3 cholesterol-lowering foods that you'll find at your supermarket. Number 1 is oatmeal. Oatmeal is a potent cholesterol-lowering food because oats are a soluble fiber. This means that they absorb the excess cholesterol in your digestive system and carry it out of your body. In addition, oatmeal also helps prevent diabetes and cancer as well. In fact, research shows that eating oatmeal on a regular basis can be as effective as taking a statin. Second, choose salmon over beef and you'll be replacing a food packed with cholesterol-raising saturated fat with one rich in monounsaturated fat. This is the type of good fat that makes salmon taste fattening, but it's not. Salmon is also packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which lower triglycerides, another dangerous blood fat. Third, if it's mid-afternoon and you're craving a snack, grab a handful of almonds. Eating almonds every day lowers your bad LDL cholesterol by about 9%. Almonds are also packed with other vitamins as well, but the best thing about almonds is that they don't taste like a health food. Almonds contain no cholesterol and are also packed with healthy monounsaturated oils. Since most of you are already reading my book, The Simple Heart Cure, I want you to go to chapter 11, in which I tell you about foods that can help you lower your cholesterol. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thanks for watching this Health Minute. I'll see you next time.
Get your copy of Dr. Crandall's best-selling book, The Simple Heart Cure, for just $4.95 with this special offer. Go to www.simpleheartbook.com to get your copy today. That's simpleheartbook.com.
Technology gives you security. Technology gives you control. And now, technology gives you home security and control in a new and revolutionary way. Introducing Plug and Protect from LiveWatch Security, an easy-to-use wireless security system customized just for your home, controlled from any smartphone, tablet, or computer, and monitored by professionals 24/7. Go to livewatch.com to get Plug and Protect interactive security delivered to your door. Arm or disarm your system from anywhere. Lock or unlock your doors. Turn your lights off or on. Even oversee your home with live video. With Plug and Protect, your security system is configured, tested, and then shipped directly to your home. No wires, no installers, just peel and place. Go to livewatch.com because with Plug and Protect, we customize your security to fit your home. The Plug and Protect secret is technology. With technology, you buy airline tickets without a travel agent. You trade stocks without a stockbroker. Now, with Plug and Protect, you can protect your home without an installer, pushy salesman, or a long contract.
Every day, the kids got out of school before I left work. I worried whether they were home okay. But then I found Plug and Protect from LiveWatch. And now I see when they open the front door, so I know they're home safe. LiveWatch helps me stay in touch and in control.
Founded by a paramedic in Kansas, serving tens of thousands of homes in all 50 states, and trusted by policemen and firemen throughout the country, LiveWatch is the new choice for home security. No door-to-door salespeople, no messy installers, no long-term contracts, just Plug and Protect. Now you too can enjoy the home security and control you want for your family. Try Plug and Protect in your home for a full 90 days. Included is our hassle-free guarantee. Go to livewatch.com. Plug and Protect is not available in stores, so go to livewatch.com right now. That's livewatch.com.
Hi, I'm Jean, and this is my one and only Henry. We just love scouring flea markets for special treasures. But with my type 2 diabetes, we now spend all the time at the pharmacy. With Medcare, I don't have to. They deliver everything I need right to my door with free shipping. Plus, Medcare takes private policies, Medicaid, even my Medicare. Sleep apnea machines, nebulizers. Medcare has all the finest medical supplies. The best part, Medcare saves us money. Medcare allows us the time to do the things we love. Medcare, we deliver a better life.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
To test these internal controls, GAO went undercover, created 18 fictitious identities to apply for insurance subsidies online, over the phone, and in person. When GAO applied for premium subsidies online or over the phone with fictitious names, social security numbers, and documents, it succeeded over 91% of the time. When GAO went to seek help from taxpayer-funded assisters, 5 times out of 6 they were turned away or unable to find help. When GAO sent in fake documents to support their applications, federal contractors accepted those documents.
All right, folks, that's Chairman Bustani, Congressman, of course, talking about what the GAO did in going undercover and purchasing Obamacare and applying for and receiving subsidies with fraudulent documents. And we have discussed this. We discussed this yesterday, and we've discussed it a little bit today. And when Stephen Moore joins us, hopefully in a minute or two here, we will be able to get his take on that. But, you know, the excuse that, well, you know, any new government program is going to be riddled with fraud, that's true. However, it doesn't end. I mean, you look at government programs, Medicare, Medicaid, you name it, and fraud is rampant, and it continues. It's not just something that happens when it's new. It's something that goes on and on and on as long as the program exists. There's fraud in almost every aspect of government programs, government handouts, whatever you want to call them, safety nets. There's fraud, and this drives the cost up, obviously, of everything. And when it comes to the miserable failure of Obamacare on so many levels, you add this to the mix. You add this to the mix, and you got yourself a problem, a big problem. And it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed by people who will respond quite differently than saying, well, you know, fraud's always a problem with any new government program, because that's not the case here. This is when you're talking about, as they were talking about, 11 out of 12 fraudulent attempts were successful, and 8 out of 10 fraudulent attempts were successful. That, I don't have to tell you, that percentage is huge, and that is a huge, huge red flag that has to be fixed. Okay, joining us now is Stephen Moore, Chief Economist for the Great Heritage Foundation. Hello, Stephen, my friend.
Hi, Steve. I was just listening to your conversation, what you were talking about, your discussion
My rant, yes, my rant.
And I wanted to say this, it's infuriating that anyone would say, well, these are just some, bugs that have to be worked out of the system. I mean, there was a report that came out about a week or two ago, I think you and I talked about it on this show, of about $100 billion a year, of about $100 billion a year in faulty and fraudulent payments don't deserve and they don't qualify for. And now we've added Obamacare onto this. When, Steve Malzberg, are we going to get serious about, fixing this fraud and maybe sending people to jail who are ripping off the American taxpayer?
Yeah, well,
the American taxpayer.
Yeah, well, you might have to have stringent ID program. ID is racist, so what are you going to do?
Well, the other problem related to this, Steve, is, we've seen obviously all the problems with the IRS over the last several months. The IRS is simply incapable of doing the enforcement here. They're too busy going after conservative groups to root out fraud in a program like this. I'm just not sure that they're capable of, looking at the people's incomes, finding out whether they're actually qualified. I mean, I believe you're going to have rampant fraud in the Obamacare system, assuming it ever gets off the ground. And you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars of faulty payments, and those are going to come out of your pocket and mine.
Absolutely, absolutely. Were you, as I was, encouraged by the D.C. Circuit panel's ruling the other day, and then a little bit discouraged with the follow-up ruling on the same day in the other direction by the Fourth Circuit?
I actually came away from the whole thing encouraged, and you're right. These two, panels came away with completely diametrically opposite conclusions. But the one that you and I agreed with was the one that said, look, the language of this law, as that circuit court said, is, quote, unambiguous, unquote. And it's unambiguous on the fact that the law says that you cannot run subsidies through the federal system because they wanted this to be a state program. And now, I read these liberals saying, oh, well, the law means what we want it to mean. It's like Humpty Dumpty. Words mean what I want them to mean. And
that's like Obama. That's Obama's take on everything. That's how he operates.
But it gets back to we'll read the bill after we'll figure out what it means after we pass it. Truly though, Steve, it's laughable, but it's also horrifying that they're just making the stuff up as they go along. They feel like they can just interpret the law any the way they wish, even though the law specifically says that the subsidies have to be run through the states. This is going to the Supreme Court. This is going to the Supreme Court. And I think if we win this, and I think we will, because the language is so crystal clear here, and it's crystal clear that the Obama administration is acting outside the law, this drills a big hole into the Obamacare law, and I'm not so sure that the whole ship will float with this drilling of the hole.
Yeah, no, and you have to be encouraged because 12 times, 13 times in the last 2 years, we've had 9-0 decisions against the overreach of this administration in one form or another, and this seems just so black and white. I mean, you could say it's a matter of language, you could say it's not the intent, you could say, but the law says what the law says, and if Congress wants to change it, Congress will change it. Now, we know Congress will not change it, and you're right, this will be a gaping hole, yeah.
You're right. I just wanted to add one other thing. Not only is the language clear, but the legislative intent was clear. I mean, I remember when we had this debate, the Obama people said, no, this isn't going to be a federal program. Remember this, Steve? They said, no, this will be a program.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be run by the states. That was what they told us.
Yep.
Even in the legislative debate, they told us it would be a state program. Now none of this, you've got 2/3 of the states that don't want to have state exchanges, and the whole thing is coming unraveled.
By the way, a great piece at National Review that you wrote about a future without electricity. And before I read the story and I just saw the headline, I thought, okay, this has to be about what I just talked about a little while ago before you came on. And that was a story about the sun. 2 years ago, there was a sunstorm of great intensity, dating back the strongest since the 1800s. And if it had hit us a week later or earlier, we all would have been doomed as far as power grid and power and electricity for years and years and years. And now I'm reading today that Al-Qaeda and some nation states and others are really gearing up to hit us with a cyber 9/11 attack, which again would target our power grids. And my God help us if that happens. And then I read what your story is about, and it's not about an attack on our power grid from without. It's about attacking our ability to produce electricity from within.
Exactly. I was just thinking of that when you were describing. I mean, and it all came about from when I took my sons to see the movie Planet of the Apes. I don't know if
I
you've seen
saw
it,
that too. I did the same thing. Yes.
And I thought, and it's for those who haven't seen it, I mean, the theme is that the humans are trying to fight back, but what don't they have? They don't have electricity. And when you don't have electricity, your whole way of life is frozen in place, and it wasn't until they got electricity. But my point, the real point here is, if we continue to put coal out of business, say we don't want to do fracking, we don't want natural gas, we don't want oil, we don't want nuclear power, we don't want dams, we don't want electricity from 90% of the places we get it from, we are going to have rolling brownouts in this country. And this isn't just me saying this. A lot of the top executives from the utility companies are saying, wake up, America. If we don't have a reliable source of electricity, and wind and solar power are, at least now, they are not reliable sources of electricity, we're going to have not just brownouts, but blackouts of American cities. And people are going to go, and they're going to say, how did this happen?
Yeah, and you know what happens along with blackouts, and it's so afraid. I was just saying again in that previous segment before you came on, I told of these two stories, and I said, my town in Jersey was hit by Sandy, but it wasn't even a hurricane. It was the wind that got us, and I was without power for 8 or 9 days. So imagine, God forbid, if they, if your scenario comes true, or if even the cyber attacks come through, people have to understand. But there's no excuse. We just have to hope that there's a Republican administration or a new administration in power in 2017 that's going to reverse all these, crackdowns on our ability to produce energy.
It's funny, you mentioned going 6 or 7 days without electricity. We had a big storm here in Virginia last summer, and in our house, we were without electricity for about 36 hours. And my kids thought it was the end of days. They couldn't imagine life without television.
I know. And
if it can't last 36 hours, what are we going to do when we have a real crisis? And all these young people say,
God
I
forbid.
want clean energy and so on. They have no idea what we're in for if we're not using our coal resources and our natural gas and our oil and our nuclear power. That's where we get 80% of our electricity. Steve, you know that.
I know. All right, listen, I appreciate it, Stephen. And by the way, half the town had power in my case, half didn't, so we could go across the street to the pizza restaurant and eat. But in a real blackout, that doesn't happen. Thank you, Stephen Moore. Great to talk to you, my friend, as always. Chief Economist for the Heritage Foundation. Give Me 5 is next, folks. Don't go away.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. To save our health care, let's follow these principles. Our health is the most personal thing we possess. Its care must be under our control. Bureaucracy must be prevented from discouraging choice and innovation. Large-scale change shouldn't be imposed from the top down because you have the right to choose what's best for you. Your personal medical information should be your property, period. States should have the flexibility to develop their own options. You should be free to buy coverage consistent with your moral and religious beliefs. Physicians deserve to practice without the fear of frivolous lawsuits. Join me. Save our health care. Please sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website. Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our health care.
Save our health care. Sign the petition today.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler, and I know there are many myths out there about a reverse mortgage, so I want you to know the facts. There are currently no credit score or income requirements to qualify. You can get tax-free money from the equity in your home. You can use the money to pay off your current mortgage if you have one. The remaining money can be used for anything. There's no monthly mortgage payments, and you still own your home. Call today to get your free guide and DVD. It explains how a government-insured reverse mortgage works. There's no obligation. One Reverse Mortgage is a Quicken Loans company. Their licensed experts can answer all your questions. Call to find out what a great solution this can be. Don't wait. Call now.
Call 800-924-9033 to get your free quote. And when you call now, you'll also get a free lighted magnifier. Call 800-924-9033.
I'm at St. Jude because I had a cancer inside of me. They diagnosed me with a brain tumor. You have to be strong and don't give up. Attitude is everything. You have to fight.
Imagine your doctor tells you your child has cancer with only months to live. Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you turn to? Fortunately, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is fighting every day to save children's lives. And with a gift of just $19 a month, you can join the fight.
This is my kid that they're giving back to me. I am so grateful.
At St. Jude, no family ever receives a bill. In fact, no family pays St. Jude for anything. That's why your gift of $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, is so important.
When I thought that I might lose my son, they gave me hope. You are not only saving a child's life, you're breathing life back into that family.
If I hadn't have come here, I wouldn't have my son.
St. Jude's life-saving research and treatment is shared freely with hospitals around the world.
St. Jude gives you hope and happiness. They're helping us live. Maybe in the future, kids won't have to go through this. We'll find a cure and it'll all be over.
Please, call and become a St. Jude Partner in Hope right now.
It's a hell of a pinpoint operation.
Right. It's escalating significantly, and it just underscores the need for ceasefire.
We've got to get over there.
Yep.
Thank you, John. I think, John, we ought to go tonight. I think it's crazy to be sitting around.
All right. Then he was asked about those comments, and he just basically blasted Hamas. But that was John Kerry when he didn't know the camera was on, mocking Israel's pinpoint operation.
Yeah, that I think shows the true feelings of too many people in this administration.
All right, folks, welcome to Give Me Five. You're all familiar with that. The current Secretary of State, when he didn't know his mic was on. Well, we could bring you a former Secretary of State, one Madeleine Albright, who knew full well her mic was on when she was interviewed, and her true feelings on Israel kind of matched John Kerry's true feelings on Israel. Watch.
I think that Secretary Kerry is doing everything that he can. He's in Cairo. The point here is there has to be some kind of a ceasefire that Hamas has to accept, because in the past, Prime Minister Netanyahu has accepted times of ceasefire, and it's Hamas that has not accepted it. I do think that the point has to be made, if rockets are being shot at Israel, that Israel does have a right to defend itself. But the bottom line is a question of proportionality.
Proportionality. Gee, I forgot how effective and wonderful the Secretary of State Madeleine Albright was. Remember when she toasted the butchers of Beijing in China? What is proportionality, Madam Secretary? What on earth is proportionality? If you're superior militarily, you don't use all your weapons because the enemy doesn't have the same weapons? Maybe Israel should use a slingshot. Would you like that? More.
There has to be a way that Palestine is recognized, that there's a two-state solution, that the various points that have been put on the table over the year are met. We do care, most of us, about the security of Israel, but it cannot have that security if there is not a two-state solution. And I think Secretary Kerry has done an amazing job in pushing, but ultimately it has to be the political will of the parties to bring this to the table. But now there has to be a ceasefire.
Oh, there has to be a ceasefire. Israel must stop annihilating the tunnels from which these terrorists come into their own country and would invade and blow up kindergartens. Madeleine Albright says there must be a ceasefire. Stop Israel. Let Hamas alone now. You've done enough. Be proportionate. It really is sickening. And there must be a two-state solution? Okay, which two states? The one that the Palestinians won't recognize as a Jewish state, Israel? Does that still exist in your little world? Madam Secretary, next.
Are you suggesting, Madam Secretary, that the Israelis are overreacting to the provocations, the missiles and rockets coming in? Are they going too far when you use the word proportionality?
Well, I do think that it is very hard to watch the number of Palestinians that are being killed, innocents. It is hard to dispute the fact that, as Prime Minister Netanyahu has said, that in fact there are innocents being put in the way in order to act as shields.
Okay, so, but that doesn't deter her from saying Israel is overreacting and they have to stop. So, thank you for granting a victory to Hamas, Madam Secretary, because that's what you're doing. And you're setting it up for every other terrorist group in the world to fight like that and to win. Because we can't bomb them if they're using human shields, or not too much now, more.
But the bottom line is, I think that this is hurting Israel's moral authority. I do think that it looks as though they are overdoing, which is why I think there has to be more emphasis on the fact that they have accepted the ceasefire, and then try to figure out who has any influence over Hamas in order to get them to accept a ceasefire. They say they will not accept until the rockets stop, and the bottom line is they have to, that's the only way to stop everything, is to have a ceasefire.
Oh, Israel's losing its moral authority to a terrorist group that uses children and hospitals and their patients and mosques and their worshipers and schools and their students to fire from and to hide rockets with. Israel's losing the moral authority. Only in the world of the U.S. State Department, past and present. Stay tuned now for your Newsmax Now update coming up.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Mary had LifeLock's bank account alerts, she may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, guarding your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose when you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
I'm Miranda Kahn, and topping your Newsmax Now update, the State Department now confirms Russia is in fact firing artillery from inside its borders. A deputy spokesperson also says Russia plans to increase its assistance to rebels in the Ukraine. This after a U.S. intelligence report stopped short of linking Russia to the SA-11 missiles that shot down that Malaysian jetliner 1 week ago.
We have new evidence that the Russians intend to deliver heavier and more powerful multiple rocket launchers to the separatist forces in Ukraine.
And earlier today, before this announcement by the State Department, Florida Senator Marco Rubio was on America's Forum and said the White House should let the American public know that Russia was involved.
What I think would be helpful now is to declassify as much of the evidence as possible, to show it to the world so the world can see how Russia has a direct role to play in the murder of almost 300 innocent people that were on that Malaysian airliner.
Meanwhile, another airline is dealing with the tragedy. The flight was en route to Algeria when it went missing over northern Africa earlier today. An Algeria plane disappears from radar about an hour after it departs. More than 100 passengers were on board that flight, most from Spain and France. Officials believe the plane crashed somewhere in Mali. And in response to that crash, France's president has offered all military means necessary to help search for that plane. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that was your Newsmax Now update.
Just a moment or two, we're going to go spinning the law with our friend Kendall Coffey, founding member of Coffey Burlington, and he will be here for our segment, and we'll discuss, among other things, the split decisions on the Obamacare situation. And then real estate attorney, pundit, and director of the Carnegie Group, Shari Alfson, will be here. And it's the anniversary, the 4th anniversary of Dodd-Frank. What does that mean? And has it been a success or a failure? Also, Congressman Doug Collins from the great state of Georgia, member of the House Oversight Committee, and he grilled the IRS commissioner yesterday. We'll see some of that and talk about it. All that, give me 5 and more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
You have the right to remain silent, but we'd prefer if you didn't. This is Malzberg's Spinning the Law with attorney Kendall Coffey.
All right, folks, there you go, and welcome back. And joining us now is our friend Kendall Coffey. Oh, okay. You mean we played the theme and there's no Kendall? All right, how unusual. But we'll effort Kendall. I'm sure we'll get him up on the board here in just a second or two. And we have a lot of interesting cases to talk about with Kendall, as is always the case. Not only the conflicting decisions from 2 courts the other day on Obamacare and the subsidy issue. But we also have a couple of other cases of note. One, a Florida jury has awarded a woman, and you probably heard about this, $23.6 billion. 23.6. No, she didn't win the lottery. There's no such prize in the lottery. $26.5 billion to a widow in a smoking lawsuit. And they claim it was punitive damages. It was the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company. She claimed that smoking killed her husband, Michael, in 1996. And she said that the tobacco company was negligent. And now, we'll get to that in a second, but let's welcome in Kendall, who, unfortunately, Kendall, you missed your open, but believe me, we did play it.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Good to talk to you again, my friend. How are you?
Catching up with you.
Good, good.
Everything's good.
Good. All right, let's talk about this. These 2 decisions that came down a couple of days ago. One from the D.C. Circuit on a panel, and the other one, the 4th Circuit Court. And the D.C. panel said that the Obama subsidies in the Affordable Care Act are illegal. And then just about an hour or 2 later came the 4th Circuit opinion saying that, no, they are legal. But as a layman, I have a feeling that you're going to tell me the stronger argument may lie with the D.C. panel anyway. But I'm trying to predict here.
Well, here's the way the argument is oriented. The 4th Circuit, which is headquartered in Virginia, validated the Obama position, saying basically that it just makes more sense that these critical tax subsidies, I say they're critical because the tax subsidies that's provided by the IRS regulation makes paying the premiums much more affordable for the users. So, given that perspective, the Fourth Circuit says, well, I think that it only makes sense, and what Congress surely would have intended is that even in states which did not create their own exchanges for health insurance, that if the consumer is using a federal exchange, that's good enough, because it shouldn't be different from state to state. And even though the law seems to refer specifically to authorizing these tax subsidies to exchanges established by the state, we're going to read the law based on what we think was Congress's intent and find that even if it is a state that doesn't have its own exchange, if people are using a federal exchange, that's tantamount to a state exchange. So sounds technical, but that's the heart of the argument. What the D.C. Circuit said is, wait a minute, plain language is plain language is plain language. And the law says that the tax subsidy, these tax credits that are so important, which most would acknowledge are important to this plan going forward, the law is real clear. It says an exchange established by the state. Doesn't say a federal exchange. So you don't even get to the question of what the agency, in this case the IRS, might think is a good idea. You don't even get to the point of speculating about what Congress intended if the language of a statute is plain, clear, and unambiguous. So that's the heart of the decision. The D.C. Circuit says an exchange established by the state is not a federal exchange. The Fourth Circuit says that the language, the operative language, an exchange established by the state, that we're going to construe that to mean an exchange that's established federally. So that's the dispute. That's the discussion. What will this Supreme Court do? They tend to go with a plain language that's enacted by Congress rather than put in their own purposes, their own view of how the language should be interpreted. If Congress says an exchange established by the state, that's, if you're a betting man or woman, you're thinking that that's the way the Supreme Court's going to go on this. Yeah,
and because of the contradictory rulings, is that expedited to the Supreme Court, or will I read where the government is asking, or the Obama administration is asking for the entire D.C. Circuit to weigh in? Would that be the next step?
Well, that could slow it down, I'm sure, from the standpoint of basically the whole country that's affected by this thing. The sooner it gets to the Supreme Court, the better. The Obama administration wants to take a shot at getting all of the members of the D.C. Circuit to weigh in on it. That's going to slow it down. Sooner or later, though, this is going to get to the U.S. Supreme Court. And as I say, the language, I just ask you or ask your listeners, if the language says exchange established by the state, we're referring to these insurance exchanges for health care purposes, does that really include an exchange established by the federal government?
Not when there's two separate exchanges, if you will. Not when the Fed does establish some and the state establishes other. I don't see how it does, but it will be interesting to see. I loved your analysis. All right, let me ask you about this execution in Arizona, where the Tom Horn, I'm sorry, that's the Attorney General, where the man who 25 years ago committed such a heinous murder was put to death, and now there are witnesses who said that he suffered for 2 hours. He was really sweating and this and that. And then I heard from a witness who appeared on CNN who said this is all baloney. He was snoring for most of the time, so he was sleeping until the time he died. And the reason I bring this up is because you know that the anti-death penalty people are going to use this as another example in their effort to try to call it cruel and unusual punishment. So how important is what we've heard from some witnesses about this particular execution?
Well, I don't think it's going to change anything in the constitutional sense. I don't think the Supreme Court is all of a sudden going to get meaningfully involved in terms of how executions are conducted. I think that states, a number of different states, where they're aware of of what appears to be just some real problems with the manner of execution. Typically, state leaders want to reexamine it and make sure that the process is done the way it's supposed to be done, which is inevitably there is pain associated with putting someone to death, but it's not supposed to be needless pain. It's not supposed to be extended pain. So I think, the governor, Jan Brewer, has said she wants to have this examined. Jeb Bush did something similar some years ago in Florida, and that's the goal of the system, to continue with enforcing the law, not to inflict needless pain. But, at the end of the day, nobody really knows, Steve. Whether there's actually this kind of pain involved or not. You simply can't observe and know for sure what's happening. Right. The other irony is, the whole concept of lethal injection was that some folks thought it was a more humane way of putting to death condemned inmates. Some states may go back to electrocution because there really were not constitutional problems with that. And if the states decide that there's just going to be extra litigation, extra contention, extra delays in having the systems that the voters of the state have chosen to pursue fully implemented, then some states may go back to death by electrocution.
Yeah, the electric chair. Very interesting. All right, now in your neck of the woods, Kendall, Florida jury, $23.6 billion to the widow of a man who died, his wife says, from smoking. He died of lung cancer when he was 36. I mean, if that's all I knew, I would say this is insane. Because I don't care what you're claiming, I don't care what the evidence, how could you not know, especially the guy died in 1996, how could you not know smoking was bad for you?
Well, and the trial lawyer's expression is it's a runaway jury, that something happened in that courtroom that caused the jury to get, so worked up, so concerned, so passionate about it that they come up with a number that is certainly not going to stand. It's going to be drastically reduced, and ironically, instead of delivering justice and compensation to the family of the decedent, this will turn this case into years of litigation and years of delay before there's any resolution, unless, again, the plaintiff's lawyer and the tobacco company reach a resolution. But this is why they call it a runaway jury. They've just, departed from the rule of law and apparently just let their reactions and their emotions prevail.
Yeah, I mean, $26.3 billion or 23.6, either way, it's just it's outrageous. Anyway, and of course we feel bad that the gentleman died. We want to make that clear. Kendall, always great talking to you, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, Steve, thanks for including me today.
My pleasure and honor. Kendall Coffey, ladies and gentlemen, spinning the law, as we try to do whenever we can, at least once a week with Kendall. Very important issues. And this runaway jury, yes. That's a perfect description. We're talking about the guy died in 1996, if I could read right, it might be, 1996. He started smoking when he was 13, and he died at the age of 36. So, what could I say? What could I say? Feel bad the guy died, but you can't tell me that he didn't know that it was wrong to start smoking and it was wrong to smoke, and runaway jury. That's all I could say. All right, up next, folks, a real estate attorney and lawyer and director of the Carnegie Group. Why am I having tongue-tied? Shari Olson will talk about Dodd-Frank's anniversary.
Looking for a home loan? Welcome to PennyMac, one of America's leading mortgage lenders, where all we do are home loans. PennyMac offers a neighborhood of home loan options. First-time buyers? Call PennyMac for some low down payment options as low as 3.5%. Looking for an FHA loan, jumbo loan, VA loan, or conventional loan? Call PennyMac. Want to refinance to save money? Yup, call PennyMac. Home underwater? PennyMac offers a government-sponsored HARP program that can help you reduce your interest rate. So if you're thinking home loans, PennyMac leads the pack with low rates week in and week out, so you know you're going to save money and get a fast closing. So call PennyMac now. We're probably helping some of your neighbors with their loans, and we're ready to help you too. Call the experts in home loans in the next 10 minutes to get a free $50 Home Depot gift card. Call 800-424-1956. 800-424-1956. 800-424-1956.
The first time I heard the word grandma, what? At my age? No way. But then you hold him in your arms, oh, and everything changes. This is my first grandchild, Steven, and I want to be a part of his life for a long, long time. But you can't take care of your family until you take care of yourself.
And now with Fast 5 from Nutrisystem, you can lose weight fast. Lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
Nutrisystem helps me do just that. I lost 50 pounds, and I feel great.
Order your 28-day My Weight plan right now, and we'll rush you the Fast 5 free. You'll get 1 week of fantastic energizing shakes to rev your metabolism, 1 week of delicious Craving Crusher shakes to crush those cravings, plus 1 week of meals absolutely free.
Grandma? Yeah, I can own that. I'm a grandma. Don't wait. Call Nutrisystem today.
Start losing weight today.
Call now, 877-316-SIZE, and lose your first 5 pounds free.
Now on Newsmax TV, is Obama secretly trying to stop Hillary's presidential plans? Best-selling author Ed Klein has the latest details on Midpoint with Ed Berliner. Go now to Newsmax TV.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
This is not the dot-com situation. We have problems with people having invested in business plans for which there was no reality. The people building fiber optic cable for which there was no need. Homes that are occupied may see an ebb and flow in the price at a certain percentage level, but you're not going to see the collapse that you see when people talk about a bubble. And so those of us on our committee in particular will continue to push for home ownership.
All right, folks. Barney Frank, who, by the way, will be back testifying, actually testified yesterday, 4 years now, Dodd-Frank, and here to talk about what Dodd-Frank has meant and educate those of you who don't know what Dodd-Frank is Shari Olson, real estate attorney and pundit and finance and development director at the Carnegie Group. Hello, Shari.
Good morning, Steve.
Good to talk to you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about it. For those who don't know what Dodd-Frank was all about and has been all about for the past 4 years, why don't you tell them?
Well, sure. Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act is exactly what it sounds like. It was designed to reform issues on Wall Street, primarily the too big to fail concept, where financial institutions were so large that if they failed, they would bring down the entire system, and also to protect consumers. So in the context of real estate and housing, it essentially tried to do that, or is still trying to do that, by addressing the types of loans that are provided to homeowners, the fees that are charged, and the disclosures that have to be given.
And you say that so far over the course of time it has done more harm than good. I'm sure Barney Frank would disagree with you, but why do you say that?
Well, yeah, and I happen to be a huge fan of Barney Frank, but I think he missed the mark on this one. Yeah, he missed the mark on this one. Primarily, the biggest development that came out of Dodd-Frank in housing was the qualified mortgage rule, which became effective at the beginning of this year, back in January. And essentially what that did is it defined what was called a qualified mortgage. So in order to be a qualified mortgage, for example, the product couldn't have certain risky adjustable rate features. It couldn't be one of those liar loans, so it had to be documented. It couldn't have negative amortization. And there were other requirements too. The fees couldn't exceed 3% and so on and so forth. The goal was to protect consumers from these risky subprime loans that allegedly caused the crisis. The problem is that it also cut a lot of borrowers out of the potential for getting a mortgage loan. So
a lot of qualified customers,
absolutely.
Correct?
So between 15 and 20% of folks who would have qualified for a loan before qualified mortgage don't qualify now. The other thing it did is it really spooked a lot of the banks, and it increased the costs. So regulatory compliance costs have gone through the roof, and banks obviously are very hesitant about offering mortgages want to make sure that they know that what they're doing is a qualified mortgage so that they receive the benefits under that.
Well, wasn't one of the problems of the whole housing crisis, and some would argue what eventually brought down the financial markets, was giving mortgages to people who were in no way qualified? As a matter of fact, I hearken back to HUD Secretary Andrew Cuomo at the time announcing this big $2 billion settlement with the Texas bank, and he said that because they were accused of not giving loans to minorities, he never said if they deserved the loans. He just said that they were turning down more minority applicants than whites, and now they were going to give it to them. And he said, and I have this on tape and I've played it over and over the course of the years, will there be more defaults on these loans? Yes, but it's the right thing to do. Wasn't the blackmailing of the banks into giving loans to people who didn't deserve them based on race or ethnicity or other circumstances, wasn't that what prompted all this in the first place?
That was sort of the beginning of the end, Steve. But here's the thing. What really pushed us over the edge was Wall Street investors and wanting the return that these subprime loans would give them. I mean, they were pushing the banks for more and more product to securitize and sell on the street to investors. And once the money became readily available, of course, you had folks on the front end, the loan originators, who were very eager to earn their fees by originating those loans. And of course, average consumers, some of whom really should have known better, but many of whom really relied on their mortgage brokers or bankers at the front line to tell them what they could afford. So there were really sort of a series of things that went wrong in this situation.
And where are we now? Now, yeah, I always put, to me, I mean, unless there's something illegal going on with the bankers or whatever, I mean, to me, it's up to the consumer. You know, I mean, I've refinanced several times, and I bought 2 properties over the years, sold one, and, you know, I take responsibility. I know what I could afford. I wouldn't go into something, I wouldn't even go into a mortgage that has an arm or whatever that would change. I want to know what I'm paying. So you got to be an educated consumer on one hand, but also, have the banks now gone back to what got us into this trouble in the first place, giving loans again, to notwithstanding everything you said here about qualified people being turned away and banks not wanting to give mortgages as much and all that, but aren't they now saying you don't need income verification in many instances and you don't have to put 20% down, and we're getting back into that same mess that got us into the big mess, no?
Right. Well, that's the irony of qualified mortgage and also of changes at the FHA. FHA has tightened their standards. They've also recently started requiring mortgage insurance throughout the entire life of the loan, because you'll recall a couple of months ago they went to Congress and borrowed money. Now they need to shore up their reserves to pay that back. And the way they're doing it, like I said, is charging mortgage insurance for the entire life of the loan, which makes no sense because mortgage insurance should be tied to the risk. The risk goes down once people pay their loan balance down. So essentially, new borrowers are paying for mistakes of the old borrowers. Yes, I do agree that consumers need to keep themselves educated. Primarily, that's going to be our best defense. But, you know, again, the problem we're seeing now is the reemergence, like you said, of these new subprime mortgage products. Because the bottom line is, someone who wants to buy a home at the end of the day is not going to not buy a home because they can't get an FHA loan or a qualified mortgage. They're going to fall prey to these subprime loans again.
Yeah, well, I don't know how they're allowed to exist. So where are we headed? Where's the housing market headed? I mean, I think the latest figures that came out yesterday, maybe, or existing home sales went up. That seems to be a trend. But what's the health of that market right now?
Well, that's a great question. And here's the thing. There are 2 things that are really holding back housing. And we have to remember that housing has an impact on all of us, even if we're happily situated in our own home and not particularly worried about who else can afford one. The ripple effects are huge. So right now we're dealing still with inventory shortages, and there are 3 reasons for that. Number 1, we've got a lot of folks who might move up to a bigger home, but they've got what we're calling rate lock-in because they refinanced at, like you referenced, at maybe 3.5%. They don't want to lose their rate, so they're staying put. We've also got a bunch of folks, maybe close to 9 million people, who are still underwater in their mortgage. Almost 40% of people in this country who have a mortgage actually don't have enough equity to sell their homes. Right. So that's tying up inventory. And then the biggie, Steve, which is having huge impacts on our economy and GDP,
so go ahead,
is construction. We're just not building enough homes for the growing population.
Yeah. All right. Listen, very fascinating topic and very interesting and great explanations, making it easily understandable for even people like me. I appreciate you coming on, Sherry. Thank you very much. All right, folks, we are going to come back, and we are going to continue with the Steve Malzberg Show right here on Newsmax Television. Don't go away.
Hi, I'm Mike Reagan. If you're a senior or baby boomer, you may be missing out on some important information. Tens of millions of boomers are set to retire, yet many don't know that how you file your Social Security can dramatically change the amount of money you collect. That's why Newsmax created a special report offering you the best strategies to maximize your Social Security benefits. For example, this report reveals a weird trick that could help you add up to $152,000 to your Social Security payouts. It also shows how some qualifying recipients can add up to $1,000 to their monthly payments. To get your copy with our free offer, along with 7 additional money-making booklets, simply go online. Newsmax says this report is a critical resource for anyone over the age of 50. So go to our website today and find out if you qualify to add extra money to your Social Security. Remember, it's your money. You deserve the most back in your retirement.
Technology gives you security. Technology gives you control. And now, technology gives you home security and control in a new and revolutionary way. Introducing Plug and Protect from LiveWatch Security, an easy-to-use wireless security system customized just for your home, controlled from any smartphone, tablet, or computer, and monitored by professionals 24/7. Go to livewatch.com to get Plug and Protect interactive security delivered to your door. Arm or disarm your system from anywhere. Lock or unlock your doors. Turn your lights off or on. Even oversee your home with live video. With Plug and Protect, your security system is configured, tested, and then shipped directly to your home. No wires, no installers, just peel and place. Go to livewatch.com because with Plug and Protect, we customize your security to fit your home. The Plug and Protect secret is technology. With technology, you buy airline tickets without a travel agent. You trade stocks without a stockbroker. Now, with Plug and Protect, you can protect your home without an installer, pushy salesman, or a long contract.
Every day, the kids got out of school before I left work. I worried whether they were home okay. But then I found Plug and Protect from LiveWatch. And now I see when they open the front door, so I know they're home safe. LiveWatch helps me stay in touch and in control.
Founded by a paramedic in Kansas, serving tens of thousands of homes in all 50 states, and trusted by policemen and firemen throughout the country, LiveWatch is the new choice for home security. No door-to-door salespeople, no messy installers, no long-term contracts, just Plug and Protect. Now you too can enjoy the home security and control you want for your family. Try Plug and Protect in your home for a full 90 days. Included is our hassle-free guarantee. Go to livewatch.com. Plug and Protect is not available in stores, so go to livewatch.com right now. That's livewatch.com.
I'm Miranda Kahn here again with another Newsmax Now update. Flights to Hamas landed near the airport. More than 1,000 U.S. passengers fly to and from Israel on a daily basis. Elsewhere in the Middle East, a car bombing killed more than 20 people in Baghdad today. The attack came 2 hours after Iraq's lawmakers had elected a new president. Iraqi officials are currently working to establish a new government. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, lawmakers in Washington held a hearing on U.S. options in Iraq, including the option to arm Iraqi security forces.
Are you going to be able to tell us anything more than I read in the New York Times? So unless you're going to give us a sense of where the security forces are at, moving forward, this chair is not going to be willing to approve more arms sales so they can be abandoned to go to the hands of those who we are seriously concerned about in terms of our own national security interests.
And that was your Newsmax Now update.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
I think there are some politicians in Israel who are men enough and women enough to do that. I don't include Prime Minister Netanyahu in that category. I think Madeleine put it extremely well. The issue is larger than just Gaza. The issue is peace between Israel and the Palestinians. The peace, if there were one, would resolve in large measure the problem of Gaza. The fact is that honest, dedicated efforts to produce that peace by our Secretary of State, by the President of the United States, by previous leaders of the United States, previous Secretaries of State of the United States, like Madeleine, for example, have made that effort. It's been scuttled by Mr. Netanyahu. That's the fact of the matter.
All right. To me, one of the most, let's put it this way, anti-Israel government officials we've ever had. I know we got Barack Obama now, we got John Kerry, but Zbigniew Brzezinski fits right in there. Right in there. And this was on Morning Joe with Joe and Zbigniew's daughter, of course, Mika Brzezinski. And he despises the state of Israel, in my opinion. It's obvious he despises Benjamin Netanyahu, in my opinion. And to put the blame on Benjamin Netanyahu for what's going on now and for previous attempts at peace. Previous attempts at peace? At peace with whom? With people sworn to your destruction? With people who won't recognize you as a Jewish state? With people who make martyrs and glorify people who kill Israeli civilians, women and children? That's who you're supposed to make peace with? With people who teach their children to kill the Jew and hate the Jew and the Jew is the monkey? That's who you're supposed to make peace with? Get real, sir. Talk about how you really feel and stop blaming your boogeymen, all right? Here's more.
How can you have peace if at the same time someone is incorporating the territory that is at issue, is building on it, is indicating that most of the territory will be part of Israel, and that the Palestinians can be a second-class minority in essentially a militant Israeli state? Most Israelis don't support that. Most Israelis are in favor of peace. The majority of the American Jewish community is in favor of peace. But the ideologues, the hardliners, the ones that propagate confrontation are in charge. And that's what's so sad and so disgustingly destructive for both the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Well, you're plenty disgustingly destructive for the truth. You're a friend to distortion. You're a friend to those who despise Israel. You're a friend to the Palestinian propaganda machine, Mr. Brzezinski. That's what you are. To blame Israel for building on land while it's in dispute. Excuse me. If it's in dispute, it gets negotiated. Okay? For blaming this old adage of Israel doesn't want peace. Of course Israel wants peace. Leave Israel alone. They'd be the happiest people in the world. But they are not left alone, are they? The Palestinian government now consists of Hamas, which is sworn to the destruction of Israel and to the killing of Jews all over the world. But you see, Israel builds settlements. So that's the real evil. They build settlements on their land. Because while it might be in dispute, it's their country and their land. So to claim that in my opinion, anti-Israel, anti-Semites do, and I'm just saying most do, to do as most of them do, to say that the problem is settlements and apartment buildings and not the terrorists and the teaching their children to kill the Jew, hate the Jew is the monkey, we'll take Jerusalem with our blood. That's a little sick, wouldn't you say, Zbigniew? Maybe look in the mirror, and that's the problem. We'll be back with more. First, this hour's American Moment takes a look back at President Reagan's SDI. Don't go away.
I call upon the scientific community in our country, those who gave us nuclear weapons, to turn their great talents now to the cause of mankind and world peace.
On March 23, 1983, President Reagan surprised not only the nation, but members of his own cabinet and military by announcing an Oval Office and military, by announcing an Oval Office address that the United States would embark on and destroy nuclear-tipped missiles in space. Reagan called the program the Strategic Defense Initiative, or SDI, while his critics quickly dubbed the program Star Wars. Still, the idea gained popular support and played a key role in undermining the Soviet Union and its arms buildup. By 1987, with his own nation facing economic collapse and unable to match the U.S. program, Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev capitulated and signed the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. Within 4 years, the Soviet Empire itself would collapse.
Just located. Original U.S. government Morgan silver dollars, the most sought-after coins in American history. Bulletin, 9:15 a.m. New York. National Collectors Mint releases 3,441 of the last surviving United States minted Morgan silver dollars still in existence. Each coin is 92 to 135 years old, but condition is important. And all the U.S. government Morgan silver dollars in this release are guaranteed to be in brilliant uncirculated to fine condition. 320 million Morgan silver dollars were melted by the U.S. government for both world wars. Millions more were melted by silver profiteers again and again as silver prices soared. Each contains over 3/4 of an ounce of pure silver. When silver first hit $50 an ounce, China was a poor nation. Now the Chinese are rich and using 3 times as much silver. Will this drive the price back to $50 or even higher? Silver prices are over 47% higher than they were just 4 years ago. But you can still get the same quality Morgans for our lowest TV price since then. Just $29.90 each. This price can only be guaranteed for the next 7 days. Remember, this is $35 to $45 less than several national retailers charge for a similar Morgan silver dollar. These original United States minted Morgan silver dollars are heavy with .900 pure silver and rich in historic value. These last remaining survivors can be yours for just $29.90 each. Price guaranteed for just 7 days. Strict limit of 5 coins per caller. National Collectors Mint protects your purchase with our silver dollar money-back guarantee, but you must act soon to own an authentic Morgan silver dollar at this price. Orders accepted on a first-come, first-served basis. Avoid disappointment and future regret. Don't miss out. Call now.
Call 1-800-704-7891. That's 1-800-704-7891. There is a strict limit of 5 coins per caller. That's 1-800-704-7891.
Hi, I'm Jean, and this is my one and only Henry. We just love scouring flea markets for special treasures. But with my type 2 diabetes, we now spend all the time at the pharmacy. With Medcare, I don't have to. They deliver everything I need right to my door with free shipping. Plus, Medcare takes private policies, Medicaid, even my Medicare. Sleep apnea machines, nebulizers. Medcare has all the finest medical supplies. The best part, Medcare saves us money. Medcare allows us the time to do the things we love. Medcare, we deliver a better life.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
That we would select 83 custodians who were the ones most likely to be involved, and that we would search.
Which are those the same 83 that a quarter of them hard drives crashed?
Well, it's not clear a quarter. There's at this point nobody knows what that answer is. But
so we could have more that have crashed.
We could have more. We could have less. I don't know until we find out.
Does that just not boggle the mind that of a small number, one about a quarter, and we can argue back and forth a quarter, not a quarter. I'm not a mathematician, neither are you, but that there may be others in that subset that deals with the areas we're asking for?
Yes, and that's a perfect example as to why it would be very helpful had we been able to complete the investigation of what happened to the custodians. We could tell you.
All right, folks, welcome back. That was yesterday, and that was a member of the House Oversight Committee and the House Government Reform Committee, Doug Collins, a Republican from Georgia, with the IRS Commissioner. Welcome, Congressman.
It's always good to be with you, Steve.
I got to tell you, I watched this man, having watched him in the previous hearings and watching him yesterday, and to me, I don't know, he's the face of arrogance.
That face is even more pronounced when you're up close to it, and is really what it is, and it's sad because this, as I told him yesterday, also in that same hearing, that what he has lost is the trust of the American people, both the Republicans and Democrats. And I said, for you to continue to come up here and be this way it's just arrogance. It is just an extreme arrogance this commissioner has.
All right, now first of all, the revelation yesterday, and I'm so mixed up with these terms of trashed and shredded and recycled and whatever. But the bottom line, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that now it turns out there could have been, there may be some kind of backup to those emails, those lost Lois Lerner emails, which he had previously testified, whether it was to your committee or another, that there was no such thing. He says he found out, I don't know, several days ago or whatever, that there may be such a thing. If that's the case, isn't it incumbent upon him, after he testifies that it doesn't exist and then he finds out subsequently that it does exist, is it not incumbent upon him, and you tell me if it's legally incumbent upon him, to notify the committee to whom he testified to the contrary?
Well, I think the interesting thing is whether the legal justification. What is bad is when he comes in the spring and his first testimony before us makes no mention of the fact that Lerner's hard drive is scratched, shredded, whatever.
Because you didn't ask him, he said. Right.
Yeah, well, which is a load of bull. We call that chicken play, crap up in our part of the world. But we did ask him, and we went through this process. And then he comes back, and on June 13th said, "Oh well, there may be." And now this is people ask me all the time, Steve. They say, "Aren't y'all? What are y'all? Why are y'all still beating on this?" I tell them because every time we have a hearing, every time something's asked, every time a subpoena is issued, something new comes out. And this is just ridiculous. It is the beyond the pale of probability at this point.
Well, what could be done? Because you know and I know that nothing is going to happen from this Justice Department investigation. And he also didn't he say yesterday that as long as the who oversees his department that's investigating this we
got the TIG, the Treasury Inspector General.
Inspector General, IG, right? That as long he's not going to he doesn't feel the need to tell you anything that he finds out, and he isn't going to do any investigating of his own department because the IG is doing it.
Well, and that's again another load. This man ought to clean out chicken houses in North Florida because as much stuff as he shreds and throws around, because he's never consistent. He is not. The only thing he's consistent at is saying, "I don't know who was in the room. I don't remember who was telling me this. I don't know. I don't remember who told me that. I don't remember if I had a meeting about that." And what is bad about this is, Steve, to the American public, what he is sitting there doing to the American public is saying, "You are not worth me answering these questions for," and the American people are the ones that are misserved here.
Right,
that is the only problem.
So what could the Congress do? What could the House do? Don't you guys control the purse strings? Can't you guys going forward, I don't want to say punish, but and I've heard calls for this, radically reconstruct the IRS?
Well, yeah, we can, and I think that's one of the areas in the appropriations package, financial services appropriation package, just a little over a week ago. IRS was severely cut, and back in a lot of ways, almost upwards of closer to under $1 billion that was just cut out of their department. They've been being cut over the last couple of cycles. We can continue to do that, but also the one thing that I think just to send out just sort of the shot is the commissioner can keep coming and he can keep changing his story. He can keep. But at a certain point in time, he's got, as the old saying goes, he's told enough stories that he's got to remember which story he's told.
Well, okay. What about holding him in contempt or some kind of penalty for this kind of obfuscation?
Well, the contempt part, he's the one that actually comes. So I mean, he'll come and testify. The problem is, though, is if we can actually show that he had knowledge of stuff that he is testifying on, and that's perjury.
Right.
And now that's a whole different animal at that point. But right now, like I said, he is the face of an administration that is frankly just defiant to the American public because they believe what they do is right.
So you have hopes that you will see Lois Lerner's quote-unquote heretofore claim to be missing emails.
Look, we never know what the IRS is going to tell us next. Now we see here that there might be a possibility. Then even this past week in the Ways and Means Committee with the Deputy Commissioner, we were told that there was really nothing that wrong with Lois Lerner's hard drive. It had a scratch on it and could have been recovered. So again, it's starting to build up. And that's the purpose of oversight. That's the purpose of Congress's oversight responsibilities, is to stay at something until you get the final answer. And at this point, we're nowhere close to a final answer. But what we are seeing is I believe, cracks in the armor, so to speak, of the story that has been spun for almost 2 years.
And of course, it's not just Lois Lerner. I mean, if it was one, you could almost say, nah, I don't believe it. But okay, it's 6, 7 others all involved in this same deal. And the emails you have seen, or we all have seen also, her communicating with her former, I think, FEC person, or wanting to know if people could see their communications, and and she said act as if they can, and she said great. I mean, it just stinks of a total cover-up.
Does not what you just said right there is amazing too. She actually had to ask.
Yeah, she didn't know.
And the other person had to say, tell a high-ranking government official had to tell her, you might ought to act as if everybody can. That's one of the first rules of public life.
Yeah, like don't talk on an open. Don't talk if you're hooked up to a microphone. It's always open.
Exactly. All mics are open and all questions are live.
Yeah, maybe John Kerry should have learned that too the other day.
Well, that's beyond hope.
Well, all right. Let me ask you a question here about the primary that we had the other day. The finish of it. Jack Kingston, your colleague, losing to David Perdue, very close, but nonetheless, it'll be Perdue against Michelle Nunn. A lot of people saying that if the Democrats want to hold on to the Senate, this is one they have to win. What do you make of the decision by the Republican voters in your state?
Well, look, David Perdue is going to be a strong standard bearer for the Republican Party. I think he is going to put forth the conservative values that reflect Georgia, and he's going up against an untested liberal in Georgia. And I don't care what the folks inside the Beltway are saying about, how Georgia's changing and how purple it can be. Here's the bottom line. Michelle Nunn is pro-choice. Michelle Nunn is pro-Obamacare. Michelle Nunn is for gun control. And Michelle Nunn supports this president. In Georgia, that is not good.
I was going to say, doesn't sound like Georgia to me.
No, it's not. And David Perdue is going to be our standard bearer. We're behind David. I'm behind David, taking that message. We're going to help him in the 9th District and all over the state, carrying those 4 lines. All you need to know about Michelle Nunn, she's her dad, fine fella. He's been retired for a while. We're talking about a true liberal who wants to come up here and continue the policies of a failed administration.
Got one more for you. You mentioned Obamacare, and yesterday we found out that the GAO did undercover work, and they fraudulently applied for coverage and subsidies, and 9 out of 10 times, 11 out of 12 times, they were accepted.
Yep. It's almost like walking into a casino and being shot gambling's taking place. I mean, this is what we was concerned about from day one. There's been no checks on this, and this is just the problem that we're seeing here. What it was intended to do, it's never done, and I think the courts are now catching up to this. I'm anxious to see what the Supreme Court will do once it gets to them on the subsidy issue, on the federal subsidies, because, again, this goes back to plain letter of law. You can't reinterpret law just because you don't like it.
Well, of course, the president has done that, and I wish John Boehner, when he does file his suit, would include so much more than just the Affordable Care Act, waivers and changes of dates, to include the ICE enforcement, welfare reform enforcement provisions there. You just can't selectively do that, but this president thinks he can.
Well, yeah, it does, and I think our Rules Committee is going to be reporting that out today. We're looking forward to having that on the floor. Now, this is the fight worth having. I've talked about this for almost 2.5, 3 years. Article 1, responsibility of Congress, is built into the Constitution, just like the articles for the executive branch and the judicial branch. That's what the founders asked for. We've got to follow up to that.
Congressman, pleasure talking.
We've got to follow up to that.
Congressman, pleasure talking to you, sir. Thank you.
Steve's always good. Take care.
Take care, Congressman Doug Collins. But here I am. Imagine I'm calling a white member of the administration arrogant. So that must mean I don't like whites. Because, if you call Barack Obama arrogant, that's a code word. So, I'm trying to keep up, that's all. But anyway, how could you look at this man and think anything else but total dissonance? Look what's going on. This is the IRS. My goodness. And I know it's been pushed aside, pushed to the back pages, but with people like Congressman Collins and others, this will get done. I have confidence this will get done. On the Steve Malzberg Show, up next, Give Me 5.
Pat Boone here with a word about bank safety. Do you think your money is safe in the bank? Don't bank on it. It's safe in the bank. Don't bank on it. A generation ago, bank accounts felt secure, thrift and saving. But today, bank accounts pay virtually nothing, and they've shifted from low risk to high risk. For example, did you know your money deposited in most U.S. banks could be subject to limited withdrawal and even confiscation? Oh, yes. And that's just the first of 19 risks explained in a new white paper entitled Don't Bank on It. You still think your bank deposits are safe? You better get this vital new Don't Bank on It white paper now. Call the number on the screen or visit SwissAmerica.com, the gold standard. Learn how simple it is to become your own banker today.
The following is an important message for all men. Are you urinating more frequently? Do you wake up to urinate? Are you having a slower, weaker stream? By 50, half of all men already have a prostate issue, and it only gets worse with age. Don't ignore the warning signs of an aging prostate. Call or go online in the next 10 minutes and we'll ship you a free 30-day supply of Super Beta Prostate, the best-selling non-prescription formula for prostate support. Super Beta Prostate is guaranteed to support a more complete emptying of your bladder, a fuller, stronger stream, and less waking at night to urinate. Super Beta Prostate has a trusted 10-year history in prostate care, having shipped over 6 million bottles.
I've gotten used to getting up multiple times a night, and I kind of adapted to that, you might say. I thought that was maybe normal. Once I started taking Super Beta, now it's down to 0.
Now with Super Beta, I find that I can comfortably get to my destination without the concern of this uncontrollable urge to want to use the bathroom.
Super Beta Prostate is a product that I really like. I endorse it. I use it myself. I have done the research on the ingredients. I was very pleasantly surprised that Super Beta Prostate helped me fairly quickly.
Super Beta Prostate is available without a prescription. It's formulated with a special and natural plant enzyme called beta-cytosterol, which was shown in multiple clinical studies to support healthy prostate function. Super Beta Prostate is so powerful, you'd have to take 100 saw palmetto pills to get the same sterols as just one Super Beta Prostate tablet. So don't ignore the warning signs of your aging prostate. Get your free bottle of Super Beta Prostate today. Due to extremely limited supplies, only one free bottle per household. Call right now to get your free bottle while it's still free. Go to superbeta.com or call 800-494-2084. 800-494-2084. 800-494-2084.
This is a national healthcare alert from the Health Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You could qualify for a pain-relieving knee brace at little or no cost to you. Get free delivery, and all the paperwork is handled by our accredited suppliers at no charge to you. If you're on Medicare and have knee pain, don't wait. You may qualify to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost. Call the Health Hotline right now for details toll-free at 877-530-9847. Friendly agents are standing by 24/7 to help you. We also have other pain-relieving braces available for shoulder, ankle, and your back. You may be eligible to receive these items and more at little or no cost to you as well. Call right now for details toll-free at 877-530-9847. Please remember this number, 877-530-9847. Our friendly representatives are standing by now to take your call. Please call us right now at 877-530-9847.
It's unfortunate that we can hear Israeli spokespeople who are speaking on behalf of a military force that is inflicting massive civilian casualties on the ground, stand here in front of your viewers and essentially blame the victims for their own deaths. I think there's something fundamentally wrong and in fact racist about that argument.
Oh, it's racist now. Welcome to Give Me Five. It's racist, according to the head of the Jerusalem Fund and Palestine Center, if you blame properly Hamas for the death of their own people, for using them as human shields and putting missiles in schools and mosques and hospitals. That's now racist. Are you following this? Only on MSNBC. And there's more. I shouldn't say that, because HuffPo did an interview with another gentleman, and it only gets from bad to worse. Watch.
Right now is a tumultuous time worldwide. If you look at what's happening in Ukraine, if you look at what's happening in the Middle East, and there's been so much discussion about the way that the media covers conflict areas, conflict zones like this, specifically when it comes to what's happening between Israel and Palestine and in Gaza. What do you think of the job that the media does, and do they give a fair assessment? Do they provide both sides of the situation, both narratives, or do they really cater to one more than the other?
Gee, you think she's loading up a softball there and waiting for them to hit it out of the park? Well, I'll argue that the media, certainly worldwide, I'll argue that the media, certainly worldwide, presents the Palestinian view. And in this country, I watch CNN, I watch what's going on. It's one Palestinian story after another Palestinian story. And evil Israel. Come on, who are you kidding? But that's not good enough for these folks here. Watch.
We could say this every time I come on your show and talk to you. We've hit all-time lows with media coverage in this country. When you look at what's happening right now in Gaza, this is a massive massacre and one epic series of war crime after war crime, child after child being killed. And most news organizations are forced to acknowledge that the Palestinians and its children and whole families are being killed. They're forced to because cameras are there. They're forced to because there are reporters that are on the ground reporting on that.
It's a massacre. It's racist if you say that the Hamas is responsible for the death of their own people. And it's a massacre what Israel's doing. A massacre. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a shame when any civilian dies, but I blame Hamas for each death. And what I'd like to do, and maybe I'll do it tonight, I'm going to count up and try to find out the number of every single bombing that Israel launched from the air, every tunnel they've blown up, every incursion, try to get the number, and then give you the total number of deaths, okay? And you divide them, and you tell me if that's a massacre. More.
But if you step back and you look at the way that this is always framed over these weeks of Israel's constant bombardment of Gaza, it's as though Hamas and Israel are sort of two equal military powers fighting one another. How do they reconcile that with all of the pictures of the Iron Dome stuff and Israelis sitting up there and basically treating it like it's a barbecue and watching the missiles pop in the Iron Dome? We're talking about a nuclear-powered nation that has a history of systematically killing Palestinians, indiscriminately targeting civilians and civilian institutions. When it's covered in the media here, it's as though Hamas is the Palestinian people and that it's just a battle between two military powers.
I'm so sorry that Hamas doesn't have the capabilities militarily that Israel does. Again, make you happy? One more.
Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli propagandists are largely given carte blanche to say what they want on American television with very little pushback. People should watch the interview that Jon Snow, a British journalist from Channel 4, who's a legendary sort of anchor, who actually is in Gaza right now. He's a fairly old man, and he went to Gaza. He interviewed the Israeli government spokesman and destroyed him. And that's how it was presented around the world. It's so pathetic that what was actually just a tough, good interview is viewed as having destroyed the spokesperson. Why do people perceive it like that? Because it never happens. You don't see that on American television.
Yeah, I'm sure this guy destroyed the Israeli spokesperson because he really has no argument to make, and he's morally wrong, so I'm sure he was destroyed. Folks, what could I tell you? And this guy really wasn't challenged on that interview. It's a shame.